regular meeting of the Hammonton Planning Board and the Hammonton Zoning Board of Adjustments for July 6, 2022 will now please come to order. A notice of this meeting has been properly posted on the bulletin board reserved for such notices on the first floor of Town Hall and mailed to 2 newspapers pursuant to law. To the rear of the council chamber is a diagram with the location of the fire exits. Everyone attending this meeting should become familiar with this diagram so you may exit this building safely in case of a fire. All cell phones will be silenced during this meeting. There will be no smoking in Town Hall at any time. Thank you. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Members of the board, you received a copy of the June 15th, 2022 minutes of the meeting. If there's no additions or corrections to those minutes at this time, entertain a motion to approve those minutes as received.
So moved.
Mr. Clea first.
Mr. Messina. I'll second it, though.
Second, okay. Got it, Secretary, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes of June 15th, 2022 are now approved as received. There are no planning board issues for this evening, so we'll move right to zoning board issues. Matthew and Sharika Newsom, 474 North Chew Road, Block 1901, Lot 22, Hammonton, New Jersey. File number 22.01, zoning board. Applicant seeks approval to add a daycare center facility as a second principal use on this property located in Hammonton, residential 3RD3 zoning district.
Good evening.
Identify yourself, ma'am.
My name is Jennifer Johnson. I'm with the law firm Flaster Greenberg.
Speak up a little bit, please, sir.
My name is Jen Johnson. I'm with the law firm Flaster Greenberg. I'm here tonight representing Sharika and Matthew Newsom for their use variance and site plan approval for 474 North Chew Road.
Very good.
Chairman, there was an issue that we wanted to bring to the applicants. We wanted to bring an issue to the applicant's attention.
Go ahead.
Stuart Weiser's wife has a business in which they're providing PR services to the law firm of Hankin Sanson, and I anticipate that Hankin Sanson's law firm is present and will be posing an objection on behalf of their client. I don't perceive a real conflict, but we wanted to make sure that council is aware, and if they feel that's a conflict.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. Who's what?
So-
What's the connection?
If I may, I'm Stuart Weiser. I'm the planner for the board. My wife has a PR marketing firm, does work for Hankin Sanson. I found out Monday that they are representing an objector to this application. So we wanted to make the board aware. We wanted to make everybody aware.
We have no problem with that if the board is okay with that. I don't.
I wanted to make sure it was.
Somebody.
Mr. Chair, if I may, my name is Kevin Balistreri. I'm an attorney at the law firm.
Come up, sir. Come up to the microphone so we can hear you. Identify yourself, please, for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, gentlemen of the board. My name is Kevin Balistreri. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Hankin, Sandman, Palladino, Weintraub, and Bell. Hasn't been Hankin Sanson for quite some time. I notified the board secretary on Monday that I represent Mr. Robert Capiferi, who is a neighboring landowner opposing this application. And I was advised by Mr. Weiser that his wife works for the marketing department at my law firm. I don't know her. I haven't had much contact with her. I believe his report was authored before my involvement in this case, but I think he just wanted to air it for everybody so there's no questions about any conflicts. I don't perceive it to be a conflict personally, but obviously if somebody has an objection, that's for the board to decide.
And just to be clear, she doesn't work, she's a consultant. She's not on payroll. She's a consultant for the firm.
Yeah, most of my contact has been with Lori Link, who I guess is her
She's
coworker
her
or-
business partner.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Mr. Solicitor.
I'm sorry, the applicant can continue.
Are you, I'm okay. Are you, okay, great. Thank you, though, for the clarity.
Proceed.
Okay, so we're here tonight because we are looking for a use variance and site plan approval to operate a child care center in the property located at 474 North Chew Road. There's presently already, the applicant resides in the home and is operating a small child care facility right now as a home occupation, under 5 children. So it didn't need a use variance, and she's looking to grow the business and expand the number of children, and that's why we're here tonight. One point of clarity I wanted to give the board is the review letter from the engineer stated that we were looking for 2 variants tonight, and that is not true because we are not looking to put 2 principal uses on the site. We're just going to use it as a child care center, not as a home residence. So I just wanted to make that clear. So it's just the 1 use variance, which in Hammonton's code requires site plan approval because it's a change of use from residential, in the R3 zone, from residential to a child care center. I have with me tonight my professionals. Would you like to swear them in now?
Yes, if you want to bring them up or they stand up. Please identify yourself. Yes, please.
Identify yourself, sir, for the record, please.
My name is William Gilmore from Site Civil Engineering. I'm a professional engineer, licensed in the state of New Jersey. I have over 30 years' experience. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Drexel University. I'm a principal in site civil engineering, and I've appeared as an expert witness for countless boards and municipalities throughout New Jersey. I don't believe I've ever been before this board, though.
Please raise your right hand and be sworn in by us.
Actually, you both can. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
For the record, the other individual, please, and then state your name and address and your position.
Sure. For the record, my name is Brian Seidel, professional planner, address at 2103 East High Street in Pottstown. New Jersey professional planner, landscape architect, testified in front of numerous boards and commissions throughout New Jersey. I have testified in Hammonton. It has been several years. I think that's it. Bachelor of Science in Landscape Architecture from Temple University, certified by American Institute of Certified Planners.
Any objection to them being
No,
introduced?
we will stipulate to your qualifications, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So as you know, because we are requesting a use variance, we have to satisfy the positive and negative criteria, which we will do, and Mr. Seidel will help me with that. But I do know that there was a number of engineering issues that maybe went toward the completeness of our application, as well as obviously toward our site plan approval. So I thought I would start off with Mr. Gilmore, if that was okay with you. Okay, I just don't know how you do it here, but okay.
If I may, before we get into the engineering, there are a couple of threshold issues.
Sure.
That, aren't engineering issues or planning issues, but are submission items. The proof of payment of taxes that was submitted was a 2001 document. The applicants are required to submit proof of payment of taxes for the quarter in which the application is to be heard, which is now, what are we, in the third quarter? January, February,
Right.
March, April.
We forwarded those to
quarter.
the secretary.
Pardon me?
We forwarded those to the secretary.
I just
Okay.
received them today.
Issue number 1. Issue number 2, on the plans, the 200-foot list was, bear with me, was old. I can't find the date here. The requirement is to have a 200-foot list less than 3 months old.
It's from 6/14/22. I submitted that as well.
Okay, and then all the notifications were per that.
And the affidavit of publication went to the board secretary as well.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for those threshold. I did not see those, so, okay.
I apologize. I should have forwarded them to you too. I forwarded them to her, to Mr. Church. Okay, so now I will have Mr. Gilmore testify, please.
Bring that up,
I don't know where,
Where's a good spot to?
viewers on television.
where I'm standing.
Right here? Okay.
That's right, now you're good.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Mr. Gilmore, can you tell us what you're proposing here this evening?
Sure. What I have with you in this exhibit is a copy of the survey enlarged that was included in the application package. Just kind of see what's there right now, and then we can move right into what we're proposing. So to orient you to the plan, north is straight up, pretty much straight up in this direction. True Road is running up and down or north-south on the right-hand side of the plan. This dark line here is the property boundary. It's approximately 1.41 acres in size. It's improved currently with a two-story frame dwelling, which is currently being utilized as a residence occupied.
Excuse me for one second. I was just wondering, if they're listening, whoever's running the video, can they zoom in on that if you're listening? If you're listening, can you zoom in on that so we can see? Because I can't see it from this far back. I don't know whether they can or not, but I just thought I would ask.
I don't think you can zoom in on it, because the cameras are from there, here, and there. I don't think she can get any closer than that.
Okay, I just thought I would ask.
This is a basic copy of the survey that is in the package that was submitted. So I don't know if you have it. Maybe you don't have it. Sorry. Okay.
Well, the good news is nothing's changing, really.
Yeah. So just to continue the tour, the site basically grades from the south to the north at True Road. Again, it's currently improved with a two-story dwelling. It has a deck, sidewalk, a little concrete patio out here, and a play area that's fenced in. It's utilized for the child care play area. There's a shed and an earthen driveway that comes through here. So that's pretty much just existing what's happening right now. And then what I have is another exhibit, which it's basically the site plan that was submitted in the application package. And we added an aerial map behind it to just give some context to what's happening with the plan. And we also add some color to the proposed improvements so it stands out a little bit. So same orientation as the survey. The site plan was created based on the survey. Same orientation, True Road north up. Again, this dark solid line is the property line. This is the existing house and play care center. So what we're basically proposing is to add a parking lot to facilitate the employees and any visitors or guests that may come in. So how it would function is it's two-way on the northern driveway. You would enter from True Road either side, come through the parking lot. In normal operations, their child care center is open from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. During Monday through Friday, no weekends, and it's closed on holidays. So if there's a holiday and the schools are closed, basically the daycare center is closed. So the parents would come in with their children. They would park out the back door right here, escort the children in or sign in a sheet, and leave. So there's plenty of stacking in here to accommodate that as they come in at different times of the morning to drop off the children. We provided 8 parking spaces for the staff. It'll be staffed right now with 4 employees at the load of 25 children, and has 1 space for Ms. Newsom, who's the executive director of the facility, so she has a place to park. And we also have a handicap spot that we've included either for employee or guest, but we've included that as well. So we have 8 total. We were unsure at the time of preparing the plan of what the parking requirements would be. 8 works out for the business use. If we use the 1 per 400, we were required 6, so we're in the target. We're not under what's required, so we would meet that. Proposing some landscaping along the parking area to screen it from the highway. Also some planting in here. This is existing tree line all in here that buffers the existing neighbors. You can see on the plan some of the larger specimen trees that are on the other lots. So again, pretty simple. They'll maintain the same playground. So it's really just an application. We're adding parking and facilitating a drive-through. There were some comments in the planning and engineering review. Maybe we could just address just with this plan. There was an earthen drive that was through here that's not depicted on the survey, and I think at the time it was see, there's no driveway here. There's an existing fence line that's located along here that separates the two lots. It's the boundary line. That fence will remain, and we will show in the survey. This was an earthen path that came up through the aerial, which is, you can see with this current aerial, is no longer there or in use. It's been grown over. So there's no plan to utilize that. They would only utilize the driveway one way out, coming this way up to Chew Road, make the left and right out, full access. So the project is exempt from stormwater management from the DEP level, but it's not for the Pineland CMP. So we will be providing stormwater management in the form of a basin in this area here. That'll be a small green infrastructure basin, which the CMP has adopted the DEP regulations. The only difference was what was considered major development. Under DEP rules, it's 1/4 acre or 1 acre. The Pinelands is just 5,000 square feet. So we're definitely over 5,000 square feet, so we are required to do that, and we will design in accordance with all the CMP regulations. We'll provide the test pits, make sure the seasonal high is correct and it works, and groundwater mounting. So the engineering portion of it will take care of that. We'll also provide landscaping around the basin to enhance it and to soften it from the view from Chew Road. So that's pretty much simple application. That's what, that's a tour of the plan.
Is any lighting?
Yes, there is lighting proposed. There's one. Yep, there's one light here. It's an LED light. It'll service this parking area here, and it'll only be in operation most likely during the wintertime when the facility's open. It gets dark early in the wintertime. They close at 6. Maybe in the morning it's on. It'll be timed, so it'll be only on during business hours, and it'll be turned off at nighttime, so there's no need for it. It'll be empty. No one will be at the daycare center the hours that it's not in operation.
Thank you. Regarding the drop-off and pickup, can you please explain, will any cars ever be parked and?
No, they don't park and come in. There's no need for that. It is this drop-off, and someone will greet them, one of the employees. They'll sign them in, and the same way on the sign out, they'll come to the door, they'll sign them out, they'll receive the child, and then leave.
So how long would a car be there? Approximately?
It's under a minute,
Couple of
a
minutes,
couple
yeah,
seconds.
a minute, 2 minutes.
It depends on the age. My young toddler, it takes quite a bit to get out, but my older ones get right out. So it depends on
Right,
that.
but not.
Not. I wouldn't have guessed more than a minute. And they'll most likely, my understanding of child care and personally visiting them and utilizing them is not everyone comes at the same time. Not everyone comes at the same time to pick them up or drop them off. So it is staggered out. And again, there is plenty of stacking for that.
Can we address the issues of the adequate buffer between the parking lot and the adjacent lot 21?
Right, and that's this area here.
You did mention that.
Yep,
Okay.
we have buffer in there, and we can work with the board's engineer, planner. Mr. Seidel is also a landscape New Jersey licensed architect, landscape architect. He would work with the staff, the planning staff and engineering staff to make that appropriate what it needs to be to soften that and block that view from the residents.
Okay, I did have a question about the issue of the use of the driveway that traverses adjacent lot 23.
Yeah, so we're not going to utilize that. There's an existing chain link fence that runs along this dark line here. It's just a property line fence, so they'll be utilizing the existing driveway that's there now. We're going to put a stop sign there and stripe across so that it's
So no
safe.
traversing
No
over
traversing,
lot
no
23.
cross-access easements required. It was just kind of on the plan from the arrow.
And will all proposed plantings be native to the Pinelands?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that is all I had for you. Does the board have any questions for the engineer before? Great.
You said that the light fixture is going to be an LED, is that correct?
Yep.
Do you know what the color temperature is going to be?
I don't know what it was spec, but we can certainly adjust it to anything that the board would want to see.
We usually ask for less than 3,000 Kelvin because it's a little bit warm.
3,000 K. Yep.
It's, it's 29,308, so
Okay,
it's
that's
about
what I
30,000.
thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answered my question.
Sorry, yeah.
Is it also dark sky certified?
I don't know if it is offhand, but we certainly can make sure that it is. You know, we can perfect the plan to make sure it is dark side certified, yes.
And I want to be sure that I'm clear, that I heard what you said.
Sure.
The driveway, the more northerly driveway is two-way.
Two-way, correct.
So, okay, but the southerly driveway is one way out only. Also
That's correct. To provide that circulation to drop off and then come out this way. And really the two-way, we could reduce it to one way, but it just seemed to make more sense just for the staff if they were to come in, so.
How big is the lot? I should have mentioned that.
1.41 acres, roughly.
So it's a large lot.
It's a large lot.
How many kids are there now?
5 children right now.
Okay.
And we're going to go up to 25 is proposed.
25?
And there'll be 4 people there all the time. It's state regulation of how many children per thing. That would be 4. And Ms. Newsom is the director, so she'll be there on some days, most days, stopping in. So, sometimes it'll be 5, sometimes 4.
And you said there's people living there now and there are people that are moving out?
Ms. Newsom lives there now. She has 5 children right now. That's correct.
Okay.
Can I clarify that when she has 5 children of her own? Or 5?
No, she has 5 clients, I believe. I would maybe check with Ms.
Yes.
Newsom.
Ms. Newsom is here to testify if you have any questions.
Any other person living with Ms. Newsom?
Her husband and her son. Oh, 3 children, I'm sorry. 3 children.
So if this is approved, they would not habitate, they would not live there. They would leave. It would just solely for the use of childcare.
I misunderstood your initial presentation.
Yeah.
I was saying that the engineer's letter was under the impression that we needed 2 variances. 1 for use variance to put a child care center in, and 2 for having 2 principal uses on one site.
So she's not going to live there?
Right, so we don't
That's
need
correct.
that second variance.
Yep.
Although I did neglect to say, we would be seeking any and all variances and waivers that do come up tonight. And the engineer's letter did remind us that although we have no plans at the moment, a sign would be necessary if we were to get approval tonight. So we would be looking for a variance to put a small, modest stand.
Monument sign.
What's it called?
Monument sign?
Monument sign, thank you. Out front. So,
Well, that must be for the engineer or planner, but I assume they want to see what's proposed.
Yeah, there's no way we could opine on a variance for something we haven't seen.
well, obviously, of course, but for size of the signage, could we get a variance? Because I understand it's 1 square foot.
We don't know what you're asking a variance for. We don't know how big the sign is
A
that you're
10 square
proposing.
foot. But we don't have, that's the thing, we don't have a sign, so we couldn't include it in our application. If not, I understand and we can,
It's tough for the board to rule on something that they can't see.
I agree, I understand.
We don't know the size, I mean, you say 10 square foot, we don't know the location, we don't know the height, there's a lot of things we don't know.
And that's, is that codified, how the height? All I saw was that it has to be 1 square foot.
Well, if the board is going to be asked to opine on something that is 10 times what's permissible, I think
You have
they
the
need
right
to
to-
see
sure.
where it
That's
is.
understandable. Okay.
The sign further has to be shown on the site plan, and you have to take into account your site triangles and all that type of thing, based on how far it is off the road, if the setback is met or not. So in other words, we can't vote on the sign that we don't see
So-
on the plan.
Then that's down the road. Thank you.
Okay.
Understood. The letter brought it to my attention and that it was not included in our application because we're just not there yet. But, good enough. I understand. That is all I have for you.
Mr. Solicitor, it's my understanding that facilities of this nature, a proposed facility, must be inspected by the state of New Jersey. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I'm
Has this
assuming-
facility been inspected by the state of New Jersey?
Yes, we will have our planner and applicant testify to that. This all has to be regulated by the state of New Jersey.
Right.
And she has to go, this is the first step, getting town approval. And then she's going through the licensing process through the state of New Jersey.
You haven't obtained it yet. Has it been approved or have they inspected it?
She did do a courtesy inspection.
Okay, you're not sworn in yet or anything.
She'll testify to it.
She'll testify to
Okay.
that. But
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
she's very on top of the
Chairman, that'll be a
process.
condition of the approval anyway, compliance with all those regulations.
Board, moving forward without it physically being approved first?
Yes. Yeah.
So you don't need one for the 5 kids now?
There was,
I'm sorry.
You do not know.
Okay.
It's considered a home occupation once it's, if it's 5 and under.
You got it.
5 kids and under. not-
Thank you.
I learned that with this project as well. And it's become such a popular site that that's why she's looking to grow, which we will have our planner and applicant testify to. But that's the impetus behind all of this, is that there's such a need for it in the
How many children are there at the present time?
5.
5. And you want to stay at 5?
No, they're looking to go up to 25.
Up to 25.
That's what the next level is with the state.
And the state is aware of that.
Correct. That's what the license would be for, up to 25. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. I'll leave that up there, but I'd like.
Is anything, are there any fences around to keep the kids from going
Oh,
out into the street?
thank you.
Yeah, they have the fence on the perimeter exists now, and then the play yard area is fenced in. So they're under supervision as they're escorted from the door to that area at the playground. So within the fence is all playground equipment, and then they're escorted back with staff back in.
So the side door, they'll come out the side door, go toward the back?
Yeah, there's a door right here in the back, and it would come out and go right into the playground.
So the fence does not cover the back door then, right?
The fence is from here back.
That's the fence that would keep them from going out onto the highway.
It's not enclosed with fencing and gating as part of this proposal.
Are children ever escorted, or are children ever allowed to go out to the playground without adult supervision?
No, they're escorted. My understanding is they're all escorted out, and it's not all at the same time. They bring different age levels out at the same time, and they're supervised out. So yeah, they're not out in the parking lot running the cars to get in. When they get picked up, the parents are right there to release to the parents. Parents take custody of the children and into the car. So there's no the children don't have free reign, I guess, or to wander about.
Especially after COVID.
Yeah.
The process has been streamlined, which our applicant will testify to, that a camera alerts the caretakers that a parent is there, and they bring that one child out, nobody else out. Give the child to the parent, they go away, the caretaker goes back inside. So it's one at a time, or siblings at a time.
Mr. Chairman, if I, public, as normally objections will be heard during the public portion, is that correct? Or you had to?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I did have a few questions for Mr. Gilmore, but it's my first time appearing before this board, and I welcome any guidance on your procedures. Sometimes I get to cross-examine with experts as they come up. Sometimes I'm asked to hold my questions until the end. If the board's pleasure, just let me know how you want to proceed.
Mr. Solicitor?
It's up to you, Chairman, as to how you want to proceed. I don't have any problem with them being questioned now.
Okay, sir, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Identify yourself, sir, and be sworn in by the solicitor.
Yes, my name is Kevin Balistreri. I'm an associate attorney with the law firm of Hankin, Sandman, Palladino, Weintraub, and Bell, 30 South New York Avenue, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
So you're going to be providing any factual testimony?
Well, I intend to ask some questions. I do have an expert with me, however. At the conclusion of their presentation, I would like to offer my own expert, but I was going to hold off on that.
That's fine. Since you're not providing any factual testimony, he doesn't have to be sworn in. You're just acting as a lawyer, correct?
Correct. Mr. Gilmore, do you know what the speed limit is on Chew Road in front of the property?
No, I don't know the exact speed now.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that it's not a 50-mile-an-hour zone next to a 40-mile-an-hour zone right in front of the house here?
That could be true.
Okay. That is a county road, correct?
Correct.
And do you know how far the house is set back from this county road?
From the property line, I believe it's 19 feet. I could double check.
Please do.
I'm sorry, 16.2 from the property line, and approximately 10 feet from the edge of the road. So that would give us about 26 feet.
And that 16.2 feet, that's a pre-existing non-conformance, isn't that right?
That is correct.
And what is the required setback in the residential R3 zone?
The required setback for the front yard is 50 feet.
Okay, so just to summarize, it's a 50-mile-an-hour zone, perhaps. We'll get to that later. It's supposed to be set back 50 feet from the road. It's set back 16.2 feet from this county road, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you're proposing 25 children and 4 employees 16.2 feet away from this road?
Inside the building, correct.
Inside the building. Okay, this is a residential zone,
Correct.
R3? Okay, and you're proposing to add a parking lot?
Correct.
Okay. Are you making any proposed modifications to the building itself?
None.
Okay. What is the square footage of the house?
Approximately 2,400 square feet,
2,400 square feet?
2 levels, approximately 35 by 35 if you just roughed it out.
Okay.
Be 1,200 roughly on the bottom.
So are you including the unfinished basement in those calculations?
No.
No. Okay. You said the landscaping you're proposing is native plants?
It will be, correct.
Okay. And the buffer requirements for the parking lot, are they being satisfied here?
I don't see a specific buffer called out for the parking lot. We did provide some landscaping here, and again, it's a wooded area, the parking lot there. We are buffering in the front, just not the driveway from Chew Road. Again, we'll work with the township's landscape architect and, get a buffer that meets the board's pleasure.
Understood. For purposes of a daycare, I'll tell you, when I went on Zillow, I saw that the house was 1,500 square feet. You're saying it's not.
Again, I'm not the architect. I just take the base footprint and just squared it off at a 35 by 35.
Okay, and for purposes of a daycare, would you include things like the bathroom, the hallway, the kitchen area, as far as space available to the children to play?
It depends on what they have access to. Certainly if I don't believe, if the basement's used for storage, they won't have access there. They could have access to the bathrooms, right? There may be an office in there, they don't. I don't know the exact particulars of how the building is being utilized interior.
Okay, and are you aware that there are guidelines and regulations for space requirements for daycare facilities?
Correct.
Okay, and you think this plan satisfies those requirements?
I think the outside does. I think we meet all the land development criteria for its parking, and that will meet the stormwater management rules. Interior, the state is going to inspect and make sure they comply with everything. If not, they will not be issued a license.
Okay. You mentioned a playground behind the house. Is that playground comprised of commercial-grade equipment or more like residential, smaller equipment?
I believe right now it's a mix of both. I believe Ms. Newsom may testify, but I believe the state has came out and inspected it. Our office has done some environmental work on it to make sure it meets all the environmental requirements for daycare to help her with her PA and the phase 1. I believe it's phase 1, but whatever's required for the state requires, we are providing.
And have you seen a photograph of the playground equipment?
I did.
Okay. You mentioned that there's a fence around the playground.
Yes.
Can you provide testimony? What's the fence made out of?
It's PVC picket.
PVC picket, and how tall is it?
I believe it's around 4 feet, maybe 42 inches.
Okay.
I don't know the exact height.
And how old is this fence?
It's relatively newer. I don't know the age of it.
And it's in good repair and condition?
From what I observed, it appeared to be.
And you think that fence is enough to contain an active child or 25 active children?
That's not my determination. It's the state's if that is adequate or not.
Understood. You mentioned stormwater management, that initially it was believed by the applicant it was not required, but because it's in the CPM or CMP
Yeah, it's
zone?
in the Pinelands jurisdiction, and the definition of this major development was different, and that's what kicks us into that. So we're over 5,000 square feet, so we are required to meet with it.
And have you revised this plan since the application to include a stormwater basin?
We have not, but we will do that perfected plans and meet all the requirements. CMP,
Okay, so that's not on the map right now?
correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this, the grading, is it sloped toward the road or
It
away
is.
from the road?
Yeah, so this is the site plan, the survey rather. And each contour represents a foot, so it has good fall, it comes down this way, and that's the way it makes perfect sense to have the basins at the low point by the road.
So it's sloping towards the road?
Towards the road, that's correct.
Okay.
Sloping towards the parking lot or the, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt,
No,
or
please.
the playground area?
It slopes, it looks like it swales around it. Yes, it's generally high in the back at elevation 110, and at the street it's 97 to 37. So we have a pretty good elevation change.
So will the sheet flow into the playground?
I don't believe it does right now. I think it's graded around it. I don't think it goes through it.
And you're proposing how many parking spaces?
8.
8, and that's going to be impervious?
Correct.
So asphalt?
It can be asphalt, or there's multiple ways to meet the CMP. We could do porous paving. We could do a couple other methodologies that are permitted. Right now, typically the green infrastructure infiltration base is less expensive, so we'd probably go that route first.
Okay, and this additional impervious coverage, is that going to increase the runoff towards the street versus the current condition?
In the Pinelands, we're going to be required to infiltrate that, and we may infiltrate all of it, so there'll be no increase from the parking lot.
Gotcha. You mentioned lighting, LED lighting?
Correct.
Fairly bright?
Yeah.
Okay, and is that going to be facing toward the other residences on Chew Road, being that this is a residential
No, it's actually
neighborhood?
behind the building. No, actually it is. It's back right here. So it's behind the building, but it lights up this way. I have a lighting plan here that we can look at. It actually shows the photometrics from a half-foot candle.
Please.
So this is the half-foot candle line, just enough to see in the parking lot. Usually you don't want any light trespass, 0.1, 0.25 past the property line. So I don't foresee it going out that way. We can do a further study with this light, or adjust the light with a different light, so we don't have a light trespass, but I don't believe we'll have anything with this.
Okay, and the residences, the other residences on Chew Road, they're not depicted on this plan, are they?
Yeah, I have they're not, but I have an aerial image here, and if you can see, there's nothing, doesn't appear directly immediately across the street. There is a house right here. I believe there's a house somewhere over here.
There is.
Yeah, and then there's some along back here.
Okay, so from some of these homes, that light will be visible during the winter months?
Only
Particularly.
until 6 o'clock in the evening, then it's turned off.
Okay. You mentioned pickup and drop-off. Can you turn to the page that shows the route the parents would be taking to pick up these 25 children?
Sure, and it would be this way. So you would come in here and then park here on the existing concrete pad, sign in, sign out, and then leave this way.
So you're leaving the existing concrete pad in place?
Correct.
Okay, and was that pad poured and designed for vehicle traffic or for patio picnics and kids playing in the lake?
I did not investigate the pad, so I don't know the answer to that.
Do you know the age of the pad?
I do not.
Okay. Is it safe to say that most concrete patios are not meant for vehicle traffic and that kind of weight in your experience?
Yeah, I guess you say it. It's probably 4-inch on a base.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, we can reconstruct that. It's not, it's a pretty simple project. It's just a little parking lot and a pad. So we can certainly move that and replace it if required.
Okay. If I may, could you step to the side just a bit so the board can see the map? Because I want to have you take us through it here.
Yeah.
They're coming off of Chew Road, the parents. So it's a 50 zone, it turns into a 40, and that'll be flushed out through further testimony, right in front of the house. Parents are going to turn right, coming from the north here, make a right, go up this driveway,
Yep.
make a left, and they're going to go right in between the house and the playground where the kids are playing.
Correct.
And how wide is that there?
That's 25 feet right here and 16 feet as you approach between the building and the pond.
So 16
That's the
feet
existing condition.
between the house and the fence line of the playground. Okay, and don't you think that poses a safety concern to have parents coming through there while children are playing on the playground?
No, I don't necessarily know that they're playing in the playground, what time of pickup or drop off.
This would be a question for the applicant or the planner. I don't think the engineer can speak on this.
Fair enough.
I think the 16 feet is good to have this roaded down, so we're not having any traffic come through and as one stop there and coming in and having to bypass there. So I think that throws that down. I think that's appropriate and good design.
And this may fall into that same category of something for the planner or the applicant, but since you opined about it earlier, I do think I'm allowed on cross to ask you. Sure. You mentioned pickup a couple of seconds, right? You said you have a toddler.
I have a toddler. Some takes a little while.
Okay, I have 3 little boys. They all have car seats.
Yeah.
You think it's fair to say it takes a little more than a couple seconds to get kids strapped in? And
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so and with 25 children, assuming they're all from different homes, there's as many as 25 vehicles coming in the morning, leaving in the evening.
But it's not.
But it's not.
25 different homes. That's what
Okay, understood. And you said there's no proposed modifications to the structure itself.
Not to my knowledge.
All right, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, how many bathrooms in this house?
I'll defer that to the applicant. I'm not familiar with the inside. My charge was to develop the outside of the property to the ordinance. So I wouldn't be qualified to answer.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. For the playground area, are there standards for number of square feet per child?
I believe they are.
And do we know whether this playground meets those standards?
I believe it does. I believe they had a cursory inspection. I would defer that to Ms. Newsom. The state did come out and inspect before they moved on, my understanding, to the next level before she took it to this level.
Okay, and you spoke about the types of equipment, I forget, residential versus non-residential equipment.
Right.
What kind of a base there? Is there a standard for the base for
There are
childcare
guidelines
centers?
and there are regulations for the age of the child, to my knowledge, the regulations for the age of the child, the fall prevention, that kind of stuff. That would have to meet all that, or they would not give her the CO on the playground. The state community, I believe it's community affairs, they are very thorough with the child care and inspecting the playground. They have to do sampling, make sure it's safe, there's no pesticides or anything like that in there, that carcinogenics that could hurt the children to eat the stuff. So yeah, that's correct. So that is all under the state purview. And I did testify there's a mix, and again, I didn't, it was a casual observation as I went through. I wasn't really focusing on what exactly, I didn't really take a mental inventory of what was in there. So it's just
So
my recollection.
you have no professional opinion on the appropriateness of the design or size or fitting out of the playground for
That's
this
correct.
use?
Yeah, that's not under my purview. That's something that the applicant and the state work out. There's regulations they have to follow. The state will inspect it. They won't open until it meets the state's criteria, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have our planner speak now?
Anything further,
I have nothing further.
gentlemen?
No, I'm
Or have any questions for this gentleman? Yes, sir.
I have a question. You said there's 5 children in the home now. It's a home-based business, is that correct?
Correct.
Does this house have to be inspected by the state of New Jersey with the 5 children?
Not right now, no.
But when we go to 25, then it has to be. And the state could reject this and not give a license.
Correct.
So if we approve these variances, and then the state turns down the license, you tell me, would it be smarter for the state to come in and inspect the property first, and then we approve the variances?
No, Ms. Newsom, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but has poured her life savings into this project and has gone through every detail the way you're supposed to. She's been in contact with the state over this, and this is the procedure they told her to go through. They said, we're not going to go through, we're not going to give you a license if it's not a permitted use in that zone. So get an approval, and then you can get a license. But she, as they've said, she has had a cursory review, and everything she's done has been in order to get approved for this license.
Mr. Springer, I've reviewed a number of these for different planning boards, and it does seem somewhat counterintuitive, but that's the way the state works. You've got to get the local approval first before they'll step in and do their review.
I get you, though, but that's right. And I have not done one of these before, but Ms. Newsom has educated me on the procedure. So would you like Ms. Newsom to get up now? I have a few questions for her.
Yeah.
Would you please come up and state your name for the record?
State your name and address and raise your right hand and be sworn in by the solicitor.
I swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. Sharika Newsom, 474 North Chew Road, Hammonton, New Jersey.
Ms. Newsom, can you please just clarify for the board, 'cause there's been a lot of talk of how many kids you're watching presently and what your plan is?
Yes, currently it's 5, under 5, through the state of New Jersey until we are licensed. So we did have a courtesy inspection. She came out and she said we can have up to 24, 25, just throwing a estimate out there. So that is my goal, to go up to 24 if possible. It is a need. We have a waiting list of children waiting to get in. Parents are having siblings. So we did establish a waiting list. So like as the 5 children that we have, as they get older and go to school, then we swap them out like with another child. That's our procedure right now.
And did Mr. Gilmore accurately describe the pickup and drop-off procedure?
Yes, it is very briefly. I have an alert that comes so I can see like the parent's car, the parent's face. Parents have scheduled, everything is scheduled with childcare as far as pickup, drop-off. You only get a certain amount of hours for childcare. And then like as far as outside time, everything is scheduled. So pickup can be between 3 p.m. and the latest our child leaves right now is like 5 p.m. is like no children basically, but I'm open till 6 p.m.
So what you were just alluding to, are
Right.
kids ever playing out on the playground during pickup or drop-off?
No, because everything is scheduled. So like we don't have drop-offs later than 9 p.m. So we don't go out until maybe 10:30. So no parents are not allowed to drop their children off after 9 a.m.
And are kids ever left outside unattended?
No.
And regarding that question about the playground, did the state say anything about the size of the playground as far as how
No.
many kids you have?
No, they did not. They never mentioned it. They always congratulate us on like the things that we do for the children. They like the play area that we have.
The equipment?
Yeah. So.
I would have to object to this hearsay testimony about what the state said. I didn't want the board to be aware of the state's position on things. They could have someone from the state here or have some documents that thing. I'm going to try not to.
Oh, okay, yeah, please. This is not, it's not a courtroom. Thank you, yeah, she's very nervous and I'm trying to get her to talk and then you interject like that. It's not a court of law. Okay, so the proposed hours, the days you went over, the number of kids and the number of employees.
Right.
You say you want to go up to 25 kids. Do you think is there a need for that? Do you think you could get to 25 kids?
Yes, there is a need for childcare. I mean, people have children every day. Parents are calling us all the time. We can't take them because we don't have the space. So that's the goal, to get up to 25 so that we can provide quality childcare for the parents that are in need, that are looking for good childcare, that had bad experience with previous ones. They have reached out to us from like word of mouth from the children that we have raised, pretty much from like newborns to like sending them off to kindergarten. So they're like our children as well and our families as well.
Something I did see in the review letter. Can you please explain the LLC and who's a member of the LLC?
Yes, myself,
What's the name of the LLC?
Little Sunshine's Academy,
And who's the sole member?
Sharika Newsome.
So it's one and the same. You are
Yes.
one and the same with, just to clarify, the business entity.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Anyone on the board have any questions for Ms. Newsome? Yes.
No, I was just wondering why you were moving, and are you moving out of town?
No, I want to stay in Hammonton. Our
Okay.
children go to Hammonton. They love the district. We have 3, 7, and 10. That's the ages right now. So Hammonton is the goal. So we are looking for another property once everything gets moved along here.
And you're there full-time at the Little Sunshine, just Little Sunshine? I'm sorry.
Little Sunshine's Academy.
Yes, it was a good
Yeah.
name.
She is. Are you
You're there
moving out
every
for the
day?
Space?
So,
Yeah, for
I'm s-
space, I want to create as much space for the children as needed because, like I said, it's a need, and that's my passion. You know, my passion
Yeah.
to do. So I enjoy it.
okay.
How many bathrooms in this residence?
We have 2.
2?
Yes.
Both on the first floor? This is 2 stories, right?
Yes.
Both of them on the first floor?
One is the first floor and one is on the second floor. Yes.
How old is this house?
No, I don't know the exact age, but I know it's a lot. I want to say maybe in the 40s.
40 years old?
No, 1940 is,
1940,
yeah. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Would you say it's in good repair, or it's in good shape?
Yes, yes.
If, when the board's done, Mr. Chairman, do have some
Board
questions.
interest one, I think.
Yeah, I just got a question about, excuse me, about the pickup location, driving between the house and the playground.
Yes.
I know you said that everything is scheduled, but we all know that that's neither here nor there, because parents will come pick up their kids at any time in an emergency, or they have to do something. So
Right.
the times really are not written in stone. Has the state addressed the issue between the cars driving between the house and the parking lot when they were there?
No, Kelly Scheller, she's never addressed that.
I mean, not the parking lot, I mean the playground, the house, and that the cars have to drive between the house and the playground, where the kids have to walk past where the cars are driving.
Right. We do have Hi Mama, so like parents, like
Can you, I didn't know what Hi Mama was until she explained
yes,
it. Can you,
we do
can you
have.
say that later?
It's an app. It's called Hi Mama. How we communicate with the children. Parents send pictures, activities. So like if they are getting picked up early, they will let us know. Like parents don't like the way. Like, can you have my child ready? And 10 minutes, I'm on my way. So it's like an alert that comes to the iPad that we have, which shows us the parent's face as well. So they do communicate that with us on a daily basis.
And you have a procedure to address that issue, so those kids are walking back and forth when the parents are coming? You have something in writing to address that issue?
As of right now, no, but moving along, we will.
But you did testify that no child would ever be walking between
No,
the
no
two
child would ever,
by themselves.
no child has ever been out there, nor will be walking by themselves.
They were talking about a fence. I was looking at your photographs. Is this photograph taken prior to the fence, or, because I can't seem to see a fence that you guys were talking about in the pictures
The fence around the playground or fence around the property?
around the playground?
I
I mean, were the pictures taken prior to that? I'm just saying I can't see. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't
look
know.
like there's a
The
fence.
fence, by the way, how old is the fence?
It's less than a year.
So it's a brand-new fence?
Yeah.
So maybe that is picture, but can you point out on there where the fence is?
It's okay, I can't see it anyway.
Oh, right. It's surrounding the playground. It's surrounding the playground.
It's a decent.
And the fence has the proper safety gates on it and everything to ensure that a child can't get out.
Yes, it is locked. So the fencing company that installed it, he did prior daycare center, so he installed the proper one for us.
So I guess my next question is more for you, Stuart. ADA requirements. I don't see a ramp, I don't see,
That's a good question. The applicants and Mr. Gilmore did talk about an ADA parking space. One of my questions to the applicant was going to be, how many rooms are here, and how does the flow of 25 children work with a two-story house with 2 bathrooms, 1 on each floor? And how big, if it's a house from the 1940s, how big are the rooms, and how is the different age cohorts set up?
Well, basically, what Kelly said, like our living room area, right now, that would be set up for our age. Like she said, the older ones would be like on the top level, and the younger ones will have to be on the bottom level. That's.
And what is the age distribution? How young do you take them?
2 months to 7 or 8 years old. That's like the license, and you can either do that one or you have to do the pretty much preteen.
And do you have any sense right now of the 25, what that distribution will be?
It will be like as far as like the age.
Like how many on the younger side, how many on the older side?
For the younger, I would say maybe like around probably like even out 10 and 10, like I keep it balanced, and then the older ones, of course, they will go to school before and after care.
Right, can I ask her about that?
Sure.
Can you explain to the board, the bus pickup and
Right.
how you have before and after care?
Right, so like all the children will not be there at the same time, so we have parents that go to work at 7 a.m., so they'll drop off at 6:30 a.m., the bus will pick them up at 8:10, and then the bus will bring them back around 4:10, so the ones that we have in the morning time, they will be gone basically before the other ones come back. So they're on like a 7 to 3 schedule, and then the other ones, they're like 6:30 to 8:30 to like 4 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So like no one will, it won't be like pretty
25
much,
at
yeah,
one time.
no. It swaps out.
And are 4 employees sufficient under state standards for as many as 25 children of that age range?
Yes, the older they are, so basically, for the age range of like 7 or 8 roughly, you can have like 10 to 1. The ratio is like 1 to 10. And then for infants, it's 4 to 1. Next up is 6 to 1. So 4 would be efficient enough.
And do these employees have to have some type of certification?
Of course, CPR and first aid training, and then all the other basic necessary trainings that are required to get hired, background checks, and all that.
I'm sorry, when you say the other certifications that are
Like-
required?
Like basically like what do you do if like a baby cried so much? Like it's like certain little trainings that they are required to have, health and safety, 8-hour trainings, like all that is required before they start.
Okay, so is there an educational component to this, or is it strictly daycare?
I would say it's like a mixture of both.
So are there any educational related certifications that,
As far as like with the staff having like a degree, that would just be for the director. The director, which is myself, which is I do have a bachelor's in education, but as far as like hiring people, that could be my decision if I want that, which I, would want them to be knowledgeable in that field.
how many individual rooms, leaving aside bathrooms, we already heard about that, but how many bedrooms in the house?
3,
They're all upstairs?
2 up and 1 down.
Okay, so those would be, for lack of a better term, classrooms.
Yeah, so I think 2 of them, and 1 is for like an office.
And then downstairs, there's kitchen,
Yeah, a kitchen, yes.
living room, you said, dining room,
Yeah, we have a dining room, kitchen, and then a living room.
and they would also be,
The dining room and the living room.
okay. And to answer the board member's question, is this house ADA accessible? Is there any provisions made for people with special needs?
Right now, no.
Are you planning on it?
Yes, if it's a need, yes, we will do it if that's what we need to do.
Are there any renovations to the house that you're contemplating right now?
No, everything is going to stay the same.
I think that's all I have right now.
Are there any state requirements that the house be ADA compliant?
No,
Yeah, I don't know that
Kelly,
I can either.
yeah, Kelly, she didn't bring that up to me. She was just more concerned of like the water testing, the lab, like stuff like that.
If I may,
It just seems,
privately run daycare centers are subject to the ADA Act.
that's what I'm,
So,
it sounds kind of weird.
I mean, I obviously focus outside the walls, but I do know that, they need to be ADA compliant inside what I would imagine like bathroom fixtures or railings, ramps, that kind of thing. So that will have to be addressed at some point. Yes.
That wasn't my concern. I was surprised that they didn't say anything when they were there about ADA compliant.
I guess that would be.
Yeah,
in
I
this-
guess
in this-
with the next step going up, but that's not something that she brought up when she came and did the courtesy inspection.
That would be a Town of Hammonton, when the construction official gets in there, a handicap bathroom is a minimum of 7 feet by 7 feet.
Okay.
With grab and handrails, you have to have a ramp to get into the house, at least 36-inch wide doors. They have to swing the appropriate way. I don't know how you're going to get a handicapped person upstairs.
They won't have to, they have a bathroom.
I mean,
down.
if it's,
If they have
yeah.
a bathroom and they're going to accommodate them downstairs,
Right.
so. Do you cook for these children?
Currently, I do do like breakfast and lunch for the children and a snack.
That, you'll, the construction of, I'm just, you need a commercial hood, you need an Ansel system. It's, the kitchen's going to be completely revamped also.
Right. Currently I provide that, but moving forward, we don't have to do that. Of course, if it's going to be a larger amount of children, it's suitable right now because
Yeah, it
it's
might
5.
be not
so
worth doing.
I'm
Yeah.
sure things would change.
I just had a question. Online it says, on care.com, it says availability 8, employees 2 to 10, and it said program capacity 15. Is this for like the future, or was this currently? It's just like a
this is-
ratings,
Right, and that's
they grade
I'm
you.
sure,
and-
yeah, that's for the future basically. When Kelly's been working with me for a very long time, so she's been like there more than one time as well.
Okay.
So even
Kelly's from the state?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
the head person that comes out, and Grow New Jersey, like they help us do like stuff like that basically
Okay.
with grants and all that.
Can I ask you a question? You mentioned something about busing.
Yes, the school buses. Yes.
So can you just explain to me, in other words, parents are dropping their kids off in the morning, and then what's the bus doing?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
In other words, you said parents are dropping their children off in the morning and then picking them up in the evening. What's the busing part of it?
Well, the bus stops like right in the front of the house, and the children are walked
No, but why are they getting on a bus?
to go to the school, basically kindergarten, first grade. My own 2 children currently get on the bus because we're residing there right now.
So tell me, in other words, the parents are dropping their children off, and then you're putting them on the bus? Is that what's happening?
Yes, like
Explain
before.
when do they get dropped off at your house?
Yes, so 6:30 a.m. and then the bus comes at between 8 and 8:10 a.m.
So all these 25 are not going to be in your house? There's some of them get on the bus and go?
Half of them will get on the bus. They go to school and then the bus comes back around 3:45 to 4 p.m.
She's just filling a need for a before and after care situation, which is a problem for a lot of parents because they go to work longer
Right.
than the school day.
So would those kids count towards the 25? Could you essentially have, since half the kids are gone,
Right.
if a parent needed, during the school day, school hours, when you're only have a few kids there,
Right.
could you take more? It's 25 like at one time, I'm guessing? I don't
Well,
know.
with childcare, like a lot of people get like subsidies and stuff.
Yeah.
So like they won't allow it because they already are taking up a slot basically. And then it's already taken up a slot. So before and after care, that's like taking up one slot. That's how it works with them.
Thank you.
In terms of the buses, they run both ways? They would stop running both ways on Shoe Road?
No, they stop right in front, and then when they're dropping off, they go down and turn like around and.
So can you point to the map where they drop off?
Sure. I'm guessing this is like the front of our house here.
Right. So this is the front of your house.
Mhm.
This is Chew Road.
Okay, so it would pretty much they come here, like right here, and they stop sign and.
Is there a stop sign there?
No,
on the bus?
The bus, yeah.
And is there a pathway, a paved pathway, or from where the kids get off into your house?
Like what do you?
Like a walkway What are the kids walking on from the time they get off the bus to the time they get in the house?
Yes, there is a walkway. There is myself that go to the bus don't allow the children to get off the bus until we're basically there. Like they'll sit and blow the horn until we're there to walk them.
But what are they walking on?
There's like a little, I guess a walkway if you want to say that.
Cement? Like a sidewalk?
It's grass. I don't have like a sidewalk. It's grass.
Okay, and where is the door that they would be entering in?
It's the
Can you
Sure.
point out?
Point to it,
I'm
please.
sorry. Okay, this is where the bus is coming. And if this is my house, if they're walking down the door, it's here, because we have an entrance here.
And that entrance is different from the ones where the parents are dropping off?
The one that they're utilizing right now, yes, because I was trying to like separate, because I live there as well, so they go to the back door right now.
Where would they go, assuming you get up and running?
Probably the door where everyone is, like with the buses and stuff.
The same door?
Yeah, the same door.
Okay, okay. And are there sidewalks along Shoe Road in front of your house?
No.
And when the bus comes to stop and they let children off or pick people up, there's always you or one of your
But-
staff walking them back and forth?
Yeah, they blow the horn. Like I said, they won't allow unless someone is there getting them and bringing them in.
They blow, you said that, I'm sorry,
They
blow
will
the
blow
horn?
the horn. Like, yeah, they'll blow the horn and they won't allow them.
Okay, thank you.
Board, any further questions for this individual?
Okay, well, she'll just be right here. I would love to get my planner to speak. Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yes.
Good evening, Mrs. Newsom. You testified that you currently have 5 children. You testified that you currently have 5 children in the house right now, is that correct?
Not including my own, yes.
So 5 children who are clients plus
Right.
3 of your own. Okay. And I also did some research prior to coming in today, and I found that care.com website as well that was alluded to by the board. It indicates you're taking up to 15 children. That's not right now, though, right?
No.
Okay. You testified that you never have pickup or drop off after certain hours.
Right.
Okay, but what if a child gets sick in the middle of the day, or mom or dad get off work early? Are there exceptions for those sorts of issues? I imagine if a kid is throwing up in the bathroom, you call mom and dad and they got to come
I
pick
mean,
up the
of
child.
course they would have to come and pick up their child if they're sick.
Okay.
That's why we communicate through the Hi Mama app.
Understood. So there are exceptions, albeit rare. Okay.
Right.
You testified you also have buses coming and going, but they don't turn into the property, right?
No.
Okay. Your website, not the care.com website, but your website indicates you've been operational since 2016. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Has it always been at this property?
Well, my prior property where I was at, so no, where I first started at.
Okay. And how long have you been operating the child care center that you currently have, the in-home daycare at this residence?
2017.
2017. Okay. You indicated that you're going to be moving out
Correct.
if this is approved and you get your child care center. Have you already purchased a new home?
Not right now.
Okay. You tried to sell this property last year, is that correct?
Yes.
It was listed for sale,
Yes.
and you actually had an offer, it was under contract for a time,
Yes.
and that deal fell through?
No, I declined it, but
I don't know if that's relevant.
It goes to the current use of the property, and if there was some reason the property was not saleable, I think it
I
could be
declined
relevant.
it myself.
Okay.
We're asking for a use variance for a non-permitted use, not for what's going on right now.
Understood, but at the same time, if it's zoned residential and it was listed for sale within the last year and that sale fell through, I thought the reason might be relevant to the state of the property, which would be relevant to operating a daycare facility there, but I'll move along. You said the age of the house was in the 1940s?
I said that's the estimate. I wasn't for sure the exact
Okay.
age.
Your Zillow listing from last year's listing indicates it was actually built in the 1930s. Do you have any reason to dispute that?
No.
Okay, so the house is approximately 90 years old.
Yes.
Okay. Your engineer did not know the speed limit on Chew Road, but you've lived there for years. Can you tell the board what is the speed limit here on Chew Road?
If I'm coming down from this way, it says 40.
Okay, and what about coming from the other way?
The same, around like 40.
Okay, so would it be correct to say that it's actually a 50-mile-an-hour zone coming from this direction, and the speed limit sign changing it to a 40-mile-an-hour zone is directly in front of your house?
Yes.
Okay. This is a residential area, and several of your neighbors have pools, is that correct?
My neighbors have pools. Yes.
Okay. In fact, there's about 4 pools within a 200-foot radius, is that correct?
I'm guessing.
Okay. You testified that you have 2 bathrooms. Are they full baths or half baths?
One full, one half.
And which one's on the bottom floor, the ground level?
The half.
The half's on the bottom, okay. You said that you're going to have up to 25 students and 4 employees. How many employees do you currently have, ma'am?
Myself, my husband is approved through the state, and my sister is approved through the state if I'm sick or something.
Okay, and for this proposal that your engineer and planner are testifying about, have you secured funding or financing to do this within a reasonable amount of time if it's to be approved by the board?
Have I secured financing?
Or funding to make the parking lot and, you know, if you got to change ADA compliance,
It
that
will
sort
be
of stuff?
done, yes. We have the funding.
Okay. There is a distinction between licensed child care centers and family daycare homes, is that correct?
Yes, there's a difference.
So family daycare homes, in any residential zone, you can have up to 5 kids.
Yes.
And you're not licensed, but you voluntarily register, correct?
Yes, you are. They give you a license for registration, yes.
Okay, and that's with the county, correct?
Town of Hammonton, New Jersey, yes.
Okay, and licensed child care centers, which is what you're proposing, I guess you can have up to 25 students?
Yes, that's what she said, depending on the
Okay.
house.
And you can have those, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You
Yes,
finish?
when she came out and inspected, she threw a number out there when she measured and everything.
Okay, and those are licensed with DCF, right?
Yes,
The Department of Children and Families?
yes.
Okay, so that would be a different group that would be monitoring and inspecting the property.
Yes, it would be a different inspection, yes.
And there's a whole different set of guidelines and regulations for family
that.
daycare homes
Yes,
versus
it's different.
licensed childcare homes, correct?
That I'm aware of, yes.
Okay. Are you currently operating just one daycare facility out of this property?
Yes.
Okay, and you said that's Little Sunshines LLC?
Little Sunshine Academy.
Little Sunshines Academy, forgive me. When was that incorporated?
2016,
2016? In what township?
Hammonton.
Okay, so if public record said it was just incorporated in 2022, that would be incorrect?
Well, I am a LLC now, but it was sole proprietor 2016 on up.
So it was a DBA before, like
Right.
doing business as, but a sole proprietorship?
Right.
And you just incorporated it this year?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because back in 2020 and 2021, you applied for 2 PPP loans, one in the name of Little Sunshine Academy, and the other in the name of Sharika Handy. Is that correct?
Handy is my maiden name, but no, it would be under the same name.
Okay, so I have, and I'm just trying to find out if there's one operation or 2 operations and how
There's
long this has
one.
been going on and what's actually happening. What's the current use in the property? I think that's relevant to the application for the board.
That's during COVID. We were able to apply for things to help with masks, sanitization, and all that stuff. So yes, we did.
Okay, so in July of 2020, Little Sunshines Academy got a PPP loan.
Are you going somewhere with this?
Yes. And in January of 2021, Sharika Handy, you individually got a PPP loan.
But it was the same business.
Okay. And your business also gets grants, correct?
We're not currently getting grants right now.
Okay, if you got approval for a licensed daycare facility, would you qualify for more grant money from the state versus being an in-home care provider?
Yes, it would change.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Board, any further questions for this witness? Attorney?
Sit down, please. Come up. Did you already give your, you already gave his qualifications?
Sworn in already.
Already been sworn in.
Proceed.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Seidel, can you please tell us the standard for a use variance, please?
Sure. Standard for a use variance application needs to show both the positive and negative criteria. It needs to be shown that the granting of the variance will advance the purpose of zoning or enhance the general welfare. Also needs to show that the site is particularly suited for the proposed use. There are situations regarding the special reasons where an inherently beneficial use also comes into play. And I believe your professional's review letter touched on this, that child care centers are considered under the MLUL as inherently beneficial uses, which in themselves serve the general welfare and the public. Also needs to be shown the negative criteria, that their granting of the variance will not provide any substantial detriment to the public good or to the zone plan.
Is the positive criteria presumptively satisfied because the courts and the legislature have determined that child care facilities are inherently beneficial?
Yes.
Yes, you did just. Specifically, NJS 4055D4 states that child care centers are inherently beneficial.
I believe
Is that correct?
I believe that's a correct statute, yes.
And what about the negative criteria? Do you feel that this, it's hard to stand here, that this can be granted without causing a substantial negative detriment to the public good?
Yes, I do. I think the improvements that are being made here will be just that, will be an improvement to service the children. Improvements to the parking area, to the circulation, controlling vehicular circulation and providing designated parking areas, appropriate width of those drive aisles, a designated system for the children and getting them to the outdoor play area. I think all of these come into play and support the application and reduce any detrimental effects.
What about the impairment to the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance? Do you think it substantially impairs the zoning ordinance?
I don't. The site's located in the R3 residential district. The residential district obviously does permit residential uses. Single-family dwellings, two-family dwellings, twins. It also does permit a number of non-residential uses, though, including churches, schools, offices, I believe garden centers, professional offices, public buildings, nonprofit schools. So there are other non-residential uses that are permitted in the district. When I look at the regulations to determine where daycares are permitted and what the design standards are for them, they are permitted by conditional use in downtown district and the gateway district, I believe. And design standards for those facilities are provided, and this application basically meets those design standards. The location of the play area, not being within building setback areas, I believe, not in the parking areas. So the design of this site, especially with the larger site that's available here, I believe addresses the design standards of where daycares are permitted within the town.
Okay, thank you. That is all I had for you. Did you have some more things that you wanted to say?
I have some general notes, but I think we generally touched on all of them.
I think we kind of touched on some of them, but go ahead, take a second if you want to.
Sure, just looking at some of the design standards applicable to daycare centers Enclosed play areas need to be enclosed by a see-through fence. You heard the description that it is enclosed by a white vinyl picket fence, that it's not located within a required building setback. You can see based on the plan that the play area is not within that building setback. It's not within 20 feet of a property line. It's not within a parking area. No outdoor play areas will be before 8 a.m. or after 8 p.m. I don't believe we heard any specific testimony regarding that, but based on the hours of operation, the discussions that I heard, I don't think that would be, there would be any objection to any condition of approval for compliance with those standards. I do believe that the application is consistent with the general master plan goals of the township. The application will address the increasing population, will guide development, or the application guides development in a manner that will maintain existing desirabilities of place to live and work while taking advantage of potential growth. Maintains the residential character of the area while providing opportunities. No substantial change to the appearance from the street. I will say I appreciate the design component of the parking being located further away from the property. There's no parking that's immediately adjacent to the roadway to travelers in that area. There's the parking that will be set back further from the road and behind the building to decrease any negative aspects or visibility of the parking from the street. I also believe the application addresses the purposes of zoning, particularly Purpose A, by guiding the appropriate use of land. G, by providing space and appropriate locations for a variety of uses. And for the reasons I stated on the parking area, Purpose I, by providing desirable visual environment through creative design. I do think the application addresses the criteria for the granting of the variance and that the approval is warranted for the application.
Thank you. Do you think that the wait list that Ms. Newsom has already received is indicative of a need in the area that she would be fulfilling?
Yes, I believe that goes to the suitability of the property for the location. This is her current client base is generally central, the property is generally central to her client base, as is her wait list for additional students and children to visit the property. I do think looking at the location of this compared to the downtown district, the gateway zoning district, a more commercial area where the facilities may be permitted, that this is a very good location. It is more, there's more space, it's a little bit more removed. It does provide opportunities for the outdoor play areas and the parking areas to meet those setback requirements and to be able to provide that circulation for both parents and students.
Thank you.
Any questions for this witness? No questions? Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, missed you.
Mr. Seidel, you had said that you believe the site is particularly well suited for the use. How do you reconcile a 1930s or 1940s building with the current needs for childcare? With two, I'm sorry, you started to answer, with two bathrooms, I'm going to guess none of the rooms being ADA conforming. We don't know anything about the electric. We don't know anything about the plumbing. How do you reconcile that?
As you heard from testimony, that would need to be addressed with code compliance for any inspections that would come down the road. My description of the suitability of the property was really based on the property itself, the location of the property within the township and within the client base, and the suitability of the property to accommodate the students.
Do you think the building is particularly well suited?
I haven't been in the building. I'm going off the testimony from the applicant regarding the compliance items that would need to be addressed for licensing or code enforcement.
We haven't seen the waiting list that the applicant has spoken about. Have you?
I have not.
So you really don't know whether it's suitable to the waiting list?
I did discuss what is the waiting list? Who is on the waiting list? Where is their population or their clients coming from? And through that discussions, it was revealed that, yes, this is generally central, limited daycares in the area here, and a need for the daycare facilities in this location.
Do you know how many people are on the waiting list?
I've been told approximately 25.
In terms of the balancing test that is required for an inherently beneficial use, what is the public interest at stake here?
I would say it's the child care facility itself, providing child care, providing that service to the community.
Are there any detrimental effects that would result from the grant of this variance?
The detrimental effects would be, with the increased population, the increase of traffic coming into the site, which I believe has been addressed through the expansion of the driveway and the parking area, and providing those controls.
Noise?
Noise, again, generally, because everything is behind the building, in my opinion, with the play area, you heard testimony, and from my experience in these types of facilities, you're not going to have a situation where you have 25 kids in the playground at any one time. This is a residential area. You heard testimony that the applicant has 3 children of her own. If there's family, if there's friends over, there's numerous children that could be at the facility at any given time, or at the property at any given time, even as a residential home. So providing an outdoor play area away from the street, behind the building. As you can see from this plan, the play area is generally central to any adjacent residential properties. So I believe the noise concerns are minimal.
But we also heard that the bus is going to honk when it's time to drop off or pick up children.
Which I believe happens with any residential home in the area as well.
School buses stop and honk?
I'm certainly aware of them, yes.
So the next requirement is, are there any reasonable conditions that could be placed on the property to ameliorate these detrimental effects?
I believe the applicant's description of the property and the use of the property will really eliminate any of those detrimental effects. My own personal familiarity with these facilities and the description that this isn't a situation where you're going to have 25 students showing up at one time, or certainly not 25 cars at any one time. So they will be staggered. They'll be provided so that there isn't an overflow of any traffic into the area. There is parking that's available should that need occur, but it does provide the circulation that allows vehicles to move in and out of the property as well. The other controls would be the limitations of time that were provided, turning the lights off. There are detrimental effects, potential detrimental effects of the outdoor lighting of the parking area, and the agreement to turn that off at the end of operations at the end of the day, so as not to provide any light trespass on to neighboring properties through the evening.
As a landscape architect, do you think there should be some type of paved area between where the bus drops off and where, and then where to get into the house?
I actually couldn't tell from where I was sitting where the description was of where the students would
I
be.
believe it was roughly here.
So generally at the side of the house, between the side of the house and the street?
Front, yeah, I guess. I don't know specifically, but that was what was traced out.
Right. You're saying just from the street to wherever there's cement already, wherever there's walkway already.
If there is walkway already, I don't know.
Right. I mean, the applicant would be willing to make that a condition of approval if the board felt that necessary.
And thank you. I understand you're not a traffic expert, but can you opine on the safety of coming down, I guess, in a southerly direction, 50 miles an hour, and then turning to 40, and then making that turn in to the facility while there's potentially people leaving the facility at the same time?
And the question is in regard to, I'm not sure,
Traffic safety.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So there's going to be, Mark, I'm going to just reach over here.
You're fine.
There's going to be people coming down in this direction. We heard that's a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. They're going to be slowing down at least to 40 and then slowing down to come into here. Meanwhile, there's going to be people leaving here that are going to have to jump up to 40 pretty quick to get back on the road in with traffic. Does that cause you any pause?
They'll be coming out the other side, though.
Well, then why is it two ways?
Well, I think Mr. Gilmore testified just because they had the space, they made it larger for maybe the employees to pull out at the end of the day. But the traffic pattern of the drop-off will be a horseshoe.
I think you're inviting a conflict there.
I might be better suited to talk about the traffic than Mr. Sidell.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
That's
I may be
fair.
better suited
And
to
better-
answer those
and
questions.
better than-
I know.
That's fair. And I don't know which of you I should ask this of, but we're on a county road. Is there any county approvals that are required?
There is.
And have those been applied for?
They've been applied for, not received yet. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, my understanding they've been applied for, but we haven't had any review.
What are the approvals that were applied for?
It would be county planning board. Yeah, and most likely a road opening permit, even though there's an existing driveway there right now.
Are there any improvements to the two driveways that that are going to be required?
Yeah, most likely there'll be a road opening permit for this one. There's most likely one here. They may look at the traffic warrants and make sure that, nothing else is approved. But again, that's a jurisdiction of the county who will
Sure.
do that.
Sure.
Right. And back to just, 50 miles an hour coming down here, 40 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is, I'm sure there's access all over from that 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, or it would not be safe, and the county wouldn't have a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. I mean, it's to turn in one way out and this direction, I don't see any traffic concerns, nor in any other location, any town, or any municipality. You turn off the road, it's not an unexpected event. It happens, and there are sight triangles that allow clear sight, and in that sight triangle, there's times, seconds built into that, so there's adequate stopping and sight distance for that to occur. So, and that occurs all over. It's not just in this driveway. So,
And are there any sidewalks along the property frontage?
not to my knowledge, no.
And I'm trying to judge from your aerial, there's no shoulder, right? It just goes from the travel lane to,
It's just, if anything, very minimal, maybe from the white fog line or the shoulder line over, maybe a foot or two is typically what you see on most county roads. Again, the county, this is under their jurisdiction. They'll look at the traffic counts, the warrants. Is a decel lane required? Is anything else required? They may say, you can't do two-way, do one-way. We can certainly do that. I mean, the plan, again, can be in flux. And again, I think these meetings are great because you get a lot of opinions from everybody, the board, and we can make adjustments to the plan to make it fit the best and highest use of the property for this daycare to serve the community. So again, we can change this. We can make it throw it down if required. We can put bollards around the area of the playground. We do that in a lot of daycare centers. So there's a lot of things that we can do on the recommendation of the board and the professionals, and work with them to make that happen. To me, I wasn't aware of the bus drop-off, but it certainly makes sense to have a paved area or a sidewalk so that, in inclement weather, it snows, taking off, the kids' shoes aren't getting wet on the way. So it certainly makes sense, and that's what these meetings bring out. And I think we can revise this plan to get it to that level where everyone's comfortable, and when the plan's perfected, it works, it serves the community, and it's a great asset to the town.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend it. I don't have anything further, I don't think, but I would recommend that at least that paving area we just talked about be made a condition of approval. Obviously, any approvals that this board grants is going to be contingent upon what the county says. I would, all things being equal, I'd love to see what the counties are going to recommend before I would make a recommendation to this board, but that's more on the engineering side. I'll leave that to Mark. I do continue to have concerns that while the location of this lot may be particularly well suited to this use, I don't know, I'm not satisfied that the building is particularly well, in its current condition with no improvements on record, whether the building is particularly well
So
suited.
that was my question. In other words, we're going to approve all this, and the state's going to send their plan, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to say, no, we can't do this, we can't give a license for these certain.
But from my understanding, the way,
Would it be smarter for the state to come in and at least make recommendations? They don't have to grant or deny a license, make recommendations, and then we could grant.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's sort of like in a chicken and an egg situation, but this is the process that the state has established, so there's really nothing we can do about it.
right, but from my understanding is the way this works is once we grant approval, if we grant approval, then she has to deal with the state. Then the state's going to come in and say, okay, you need ADA compliant stuff. This bathroom's got to be a certain size. The rooms have to be so everything. The state's going to come in and tell her what the inside of that building's got to look like. And if they're doing their job, then it could be prohibitive for her at that point. But I think that's something that she's going to have to work out with the state. And from my understanding, that's the way it works.
Well,
Well, and the Town of Hammonton Construction Office.
In the town of Hammonton. But the state does take the position, don't bother us until you get local approval, and then come back
Right.
and we'll give you, yep, that is the way it works.
I'm not sure that the town of Hammonton's construction office is going to have jurisdiction. I don't know. It may come out of whatever the Trenton office is.
Well, the fire department will they also do inspections on that too, on daycare centers. The fire department, they also do inspections, and they'll have to meet the fire department codes along with the state. I mean, because I used to inspect those places long time ago, so anything over 5 kids, we would go in and inspect. I mean, we don't get into the construction, but you got to make sure you have the exits and all that stuff,
Commercial fire alarm.
Yeah.
So you as a board are being asked to vote on a use variance. There are no C variances here. So this is all basically just one use variance and a site plan. So you need to be satisfied that you trust the state in terms of what changes they're going to be made, and that's going to be appropriate for you to grant a use variance. I can't answer that question.
That's
Well,
the way.
if I could back up for you, that is all correct. Thank you. But I agree that the sequence of events seemed a little off to me, but I researched it. And if you think about it, a use variance runs with the land. It's for the property itself. The site, the house rather, will have to be up to code by the state of New Jersey, like you were saying. But we're asking for a use variance in the R3 zone to permit this use. The house, we can put additions on the house, we can totally change the house, but We were asking for this use in this property, and why this particular property, this lot, is appropriate for this use. That's what we're here for.
I just have,
I'm going to, if I may, I'm going to disagree with you. A use variance is a use or structure not permitted in the zone. So it's not just the parcel of land. I think the board is well within its rights to take
sure.
a look at the structure itself and to see if that structure is appropriate to the use that's being proposed.
Right, but we're not asking for a structure that's not permitted. We're asking for a use that's not permitted.
Well, but the use goes in the structure.
Correct.
So you couldn't put a smelting plant in that house.
I have a quick question. If we grant a use variance and then the state comes in and makes requirements and the applicant finds out that what the state wants them to do is prohibitive, now the property's been rezoned pretty much. So does it,
Somebody can come in and comply with the state requirements and use the use variance as their base, absolutely.
Can it be a single-family dwelling, I think? Can it go back, if we approve it as a daycare center only, can it go back to a single-family dwelling
they'd have to
without
come,
coming here?
Have to come back here.
If the use is abandoned, if the use of a daycare center is abandoned, they would have to come back?
It would probably, I'm sorry, probably revert to the.
Right, I mean, I'm with you. I'm
It's a
not
permitted
exactly, I
use in
think it
R3,
would
right? Yeah.
revert back to single family if it was abandoned.
Abandoned,
No intent of using it as the
Yeah,
use.
there's a certain time limit as to how long it has to be abandoned by.
Plus, a single family is permitted in the R3.
Correct.
Right, and it just has to show no intention of it continuing as a daycare center, and it would just be single family, and.
I want to allow the.
Of course. Okay.
Good evening. You testified that there are 2 other zones in Hammonton that permit licensed daycare centers. Is that correct?
I don't recall if they were specifically identified as licensed daycare centers, but there were conditional uses that were identified in the downtown and the gateway zoning districts.
Okay, but there are these in-home daycares which are up to 5 kids, and those are permitted in every single residential zone in the whole state of New Jersey, correct?
For facilities similar to what's operating there today, yes.
Okay, and then there's these licensed daycare facilities, which is what's being proposed here. And those are actually permitted in every non-residential zone in the entire state of New Jersey, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what the applicant is proposing here is actually outside the scope of both of those statutes that were enacted by the legislature to address daycare issues. Because she's asking for a licensed daycare facility in a residential zone, which is the one thing you can't do, right?
It's not completely consistent with that, or not completely consistent with those regulations. If you look at the standards in the downtown zoning district, those standards specifically identify when conducted within a building type defined as a residential structure. So, if that residential structure were in a commercial district, then yes, your statutes would be compatible or correct for this.
Okay, understood. What if I were to tell you that forget about the legislation of the state of New Jersey. If you look at Hammonton's own zoning ordinances, licensed daycare centers are permitted in 7 zones within this township. Do you have any reason to dispute that? I can list them for you if you'd like. The Gateway District, Avenue area, Gateway District, Boulevard, Downtown District, Near Town, Downtown District, In Town, Railway, Downtown District, In Town, Downtown District, Downtown, and then even in the Highway Business District, it's permitted as an ancillary use, the other 6 being conditional uses. Is that correct?
That's consistent with what I had stated about the gateway and the downtown district.
Understood.
Being permitted uses. Not conditional or auxiliary, is that the word? Ancillary?
In the Highway Business District, it's ancillary. The other 6, I believe, are conditional
Or
uses.
conditional.
Correct. You testified that this application is beneficial in the sense that it provides space in an appropriate location for this activity. correct?
Yes,
Okay. You're aware that there's a 50-foot minimum setback from the main road in a residential district?
yes,
And this is pre-existing non-conforming, it's only 16.2 feet back from the road?
correct,
And it's a 50-mile-an-hour zone until right in front of the house it cuts to 40?
yes.
And it's your professional opinion that that's an appropriate location to put a daycare facility that close to the road?
There's currently a daycare that's operating out of that building. The access that is coming to and from the building will be located at the rear of that building and will not be within that 16-foot area.
But instead of 5 kids on the property, you're talking about up to 25 kids?
That's correct.
Okay. As to the traffic issues, are you aware of how many driveways are located directly across the street from this property?
For the entire length of the property?
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure.
What if I were to tell you there's 2? Would that exacerbate your concerns, if you have any concerns, about the traffic safety when you've got pickup, drop-off, buses on the shoulder, winter weather, snow, potential fog? And I say that from my own experience driving through Hammonton on the way to work. I know there's fog, especially in certain months of the year. The additional traffic coming in and out of those driveways, would that be a concern?
No.
Okay. I've got no further questions.
Board, any further questions for this witness? Sam?
On the negative side, if on the negative side, I'm just sort of hung up on 25 cars dropping off in the morning, plus up to 8 employees.
4 employees.
4. Well, on the website, it says 8, so.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. And it's not, just to be clear, I don't know if the testimony came out, it's not 25 cars, because there's a lot of siblings.
But that's irrelevant, because next year, it might not be 25 siblings. So it could be
True.
up to 25 cars.
Correct.
We have to go on what it could be. It could be up to 25 cars.
Okay.
So, I mean, we could sit here and say there's 3 kids per car, but
Right.
whatever
It could
happens,
change.
happens.
Sure.
So we have to go on the worst-case scenario. So 25 cars and 4 employees, that's 29 cars every morning and every afternoon. Noise, traffic, that's not detrimental to this property?
Sorry, is that a question directed?
Somebody can answer. It doesn't matter to me.
I don't believe it is. It is a county road. Yes, there are several driveways in the area. There's currently, families being served here now.
It's a county road in the rural residential district of the town of Hammonton, R3, our second most rural zone.
Understood.
Okay, so it's not in a business district.
So how many cars can actually pull up in the driveway that would not be hanging out on Chew Street?
You beat me to that. Okay.
I would estimate, even if we just looked up to the door here,
The first car is going to pull up to the doorway, so from the doorway where the first car is going to stop, back to Chew Street, how many cars are we talking about are going to get in there?
I'd estimate about 8.
There's a 8 to 10 is a good estimate on a single. If that were to happen, which is unlikely because they arrive at different times of the day, there was testimony about different hours before.
But again, that's all hearsay also. That's all hearsay also. Everybody could elect, you're not going to tell a customer you can't drop off at 9 o'clock if everybody, that's,
Okay, if
we can't go on,
We did a worst case scenario.
okay.
Okay, 25 cars, 1 parked here, approximately 10 here. People are not going to sit out, they're going to pull back in and they'll double stack, just like at a car wash or anything else like that. If a common sense starts to take over, you pull in there, now you got 20 cars there. I think it's a highly unlikely scenario, but I think the site could handle that with that scenario.
Anything further? Ma'am, anything else for your witnesses?
Nothing else for our
Okay, at this time, we'd like to hear from the town engineer. Your comments, sir?
Yes, sir, thank you. The engineering review starts on page 5 of our report. I had a number of comments that were addressed throughout the testimony by the engineer. I do have a couple that I want to touch on in more detail, particularly related to stormwater management. The engineer did mention that he will be submitting a revised plan with a stormwater facility. I am a little concerned with that only because I haven't seen anything. I mean, typically in a project where you have conditional approvals, I've had a chance to see what is designed, and here I don't have anything to go by. We have pretty good, good soils in this town, but you never know what you find. So we may have issues with high water table soils where we redesign the property in order to accommodate some type of facility. So what you see today may be different, substantially based on what needs to be done to accommodate the runoff in the zone. So it's your it's your right as a board to do that. I'm just letting you know that it's difficult to have to work on that assumption going forward, that we want to work together to make this work without even without seeing anything to let me know that it's even feasible. There's additional clearing that needs to be done. There seems to be the only place we can do stuff is in the front right corner. So I just wanted to put that out there that I am concerned that we can do some pretty cool things as engineers. I've also been into area on the design side where you just don't have you hit some roadblocks. Other things were landscaping and lighting were all touched upon, so I'm okay with that. I would recommend that we take a look at the square footage of the building. I've heard a few numbers pop out: 2,400, 1,500. I measure 1,000, not including the deck. I wouldn't call the deck usable space, but I think it's worth revisiting just to make sure that we have, at least we're consistent across the board here with the because again, if there are talking about modifications to the building, whether it's additions, then that could certainly affect the site plan, whether it's additional impervious cover or whatnot. So I would recommend looking at that. I recommend at this point, getting the fire department and the police department, they deserve, I believe, a chance to look at this and offer any comments, which is typical for any site plan we see in this board. There was no information in the application regarding additional water and sewer demands. I'm not familiar with what a daycare would need. I would imagine it might be more than a single-family home. So there may not be a need for any additional increasing in demand or services, but I think we need to provide information to us to review regarding additional, water and sewer demands that we may need. Like we mentioned, the county will have a say in this application. It appears I think there will be a site triangle that it was mentioned that will probably need to be addressed at some point, shown on the plan, and make sure that whatever we do regarding drainage or landscaping is outside of any site triangle to help eliminate any conflicts with vision, pulling in and out. So that's the gist of what I wanted to bring to your attention in light of the additional testimony we had. So thank you.
Did you receive any notification or inspection certificate from the highway department or the police department or?
No, I'm not even sure. I don't know. I don't have anything on file from them. So.
Are they part of the checkoff sheet?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's not needed?
It's recommended, but it's not needed.
Pardon me?
It's recommended, but not needed.
Oh, I find, okay, recommended.
Yeah, wasn't
Oh,
aware.
any questions for the town engineer? Very well. Town planner, your comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I spoke somewhat at length a little earlier about whether this site is particularly well suited to the proposed use, so I won't go over that again. I would like to just hit some of the purposes of zoning that the applicant's professionals had spoken about and just raise some things for you to think about. The first one is purpose of zoning A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of lands in the state in a manner that will promote the public health, safety, morals and general welfare. We had a lengthy conversation about safety in terms of traffic. I would leave that to your own deliberations as to whether you're satisfied with that. Item G, purpose of zoning G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses according to their respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. I think you have to decide whether appropriate locations applies to this application. I think we talked about the rest at length before, so I'll leave you with that.
Members of the board, questions for the town planner?
So the use approval, if we grant use approval today, there's no site plan approval where basically that it goes to the engineers and the other jurisdictions.
It's a change of use, so it is a site plan approval.
That's part of the application.
That's part of the application.
But then that would be contingent upon all the approvals from the other government agencies that she would have to comply with.
Correct.
But it is hard to approve a site plan that you don't have the stormwater management worked out. At least, I don't see it.
I'm sorry, it's, without getting stormwater, you can't approve a site plan, is that what you just said?
No,
You're not comfortable, is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to approve a site plan, part of a site plan is stormwater management. And if I was listening, if I heard the engineer correctly, lots of things are possible, but he doesn't know any of them are possible on that site yet. Is that an accurate?
That's correct.
What you said?
That's absolutely correct. Like I mentioned, soil conditions, groundwater conditions. There are a number, sizing, right? I mean, I have an idea based on experience, but I mean, is there, how big does that have to be? I mean, there's a number of things that are make this process fluid, and we could be here. Again, what I end up willing to accept or recommend you to accept could be substantially different than what you see today, where maybe we're pushing the parking lot back further or you just don't know it. And that's my, if I had something to go by, I could tell you we could move this around, change this, but right now I had nothing to go by. Yeah.
No, that's fair. Would the board be willing to entertain a bifurcation of the use variance from the site plan? And tonight, we go for use variance approval, and once we get our stormwater management system aligned, then we could come back for the site plan?
So that's the point I was trying to make was, that the use and the site, we don't have enough information based on the site, but I think we have enough information and testimony provided on the use change, right? So we don't have stormwater management, we don't have technical design. Obviously, our engineers, enlighten us on a lot of those, restrictions or not being confident enough to give the thumbs up for that. So, that's kind of my.
Are you willing to withdraw the site plan application?
May I have 1 second, please? That would be fine with the applicant.
Unless there's any objection from the board, the applicant is going to withdraw their application for site plan approval and ask for the board to only rule on the use variance. It's perfectly appropriate.
They would come back here with a
They would
site
have to
plan
come back.
before they operate.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd have to
Of
come
course,
back before you
yes.
Operate. Yeah.
And this way, our engineer can work with your engineer to make it.
And so that would have to be totally approved. We would have to, I mean, engineer would have to approve the site, I mean, the stormwater management and all
Absolutely.
like that. And if that didn't get approved, the whole,
Absolutely.
totally mute. Okay.
But that had to make it acceptable to the engineer.
Everybody approve of that? Yeah, well, I want to address you, sir, when I open up to the public.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, but I just wanted to remind the board that I did bring my own planner, which I never heard official testimony about the appropriateness of separating site plan from the use variance approval. So I thought the board might want to benefit of that testimony before voting and making a decision on that respectively.
very well. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure we have any jurisdiction. If the applicant withdraws the application, it's withdrawn. He certainly could indicate that they should be put together and handled at one time, but I can't stop the applicant from withdrawing their application.
But that'll mean it would be tabled for, or she have to resubmit it.
No, I mean, my understanding is the opponent here is going to argue that they both have to be handled together.
Public comments and then.
Okay.
Anything further, ma'am?
No, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open up to the public. Anybody from the public wishes to be heard on this application? Yes, sir. Please come up.
Yes, Mr.
Podium.
Chair.
Once again, for the record, I'm Kevin Balistreri, Hankin Sandman, Palladino, Weintraub, and Bell. Yes, Mr. Chair. Once again, for the record, my name is Kevin Balistreri, and I'm an attorney with Hankin Sandman, Palladino, Weintraub, and Bell. I represent a neighboring landowner and an objector, and I did bring my own expert planner here today to provide some testimony just to give the board a more complete and balanced picture of the application. So if the board will entertain that, I would like to call Ms. Barbara Woolley Dillon to provide some expert testimony on this issue.
Okay. Very well.
Thank you very much.
Up to the podium, state your name and address, and raise your right hand, and be sworn in by the solicitor.
Yes, my name is Barbara Allen, A-L-L-E-N, Woolley, W-O-O-L-L-E-Y -Dillon, D-I-L-L-O-N. My address is 5856 Route 9, Tuckerton, New Jersey, 08087.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Proceed.
Ms. Woolley Dillon, can you please summarize your professional qualifications for the board for purposes of having you qualified as an expert?
Absolutely. I am a professional planner with the state of New Jersey. I hold not only the New Jersey Professional Planners License, but the American Institute of Certified Planners License, which is required if you only have an NJPP license. I also have an undergraduate degree from Rutgers University in Camden with an urban studies and urban planning option. I have a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania. It's an MCP, or Masters of City Planning. I also have a certification as a zoning official, and I'm a certified expert in soils, vegetation, wetlands identification. I've been practicing for approximately over 20 years now. I've been the planners for several communities here in and around southern New Jersey. Galloway, I was most recently the director of planning for Atlantic City, Hamilton Township, Egg Harbor Township. I was a zoning official for Maniloking, and I've appeared before a lot of the boards here in Atlantic County. Very quickly, some of the ones that I've talked about, as well as Atlantic City, Buena Vista, Borough of Buena, as well as Mullica Township, and I've been in front of the zoning board a few years back. And I would also offer that I've written master plans for several communities, as well as re-examination reports, consistency reviews, and other special planning studies. And I am current with, we are in the middle of our cycle for planning licenses. When you have your AICP certification, you are required to have 32 credit maintenance hours every 2 years. I have, I think, 24 of them, and my cycle just started in January. So I am current with all of that.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to proffer Ms. Woolley Dillon as an expert in this matter, as an expert planner. Thank you. Ms. Woolley Dillon, can you please describe to the board the documents that you reviewed in preparation for today's appearance?
Yes, I looked at the plans and applications that were filed in 2020 as well as 2022, the ordinances for the municipality as well as master plans, master plan reexamination reports for Hammonton, municipal land use law, relevant case law, and then child care study law and the requirements for the state.
So it's safe to say you're familiar with this application and the zoning ordinances and master plan of the Township of Hammonton?
Yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with the subject property?
Yes, I am.
And what is your understanding of that property?
It is currently utilized for, based on the testimony tonight, they're operating a very limited home care, child care situation with an existing residential dwelling.
Okay. And can you please describe the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood?
Yes, it is mostly, it's what we would call a mature residential area. It has, it's pretty much fully developed. To the south of this, south of North First Street, you also have a winery, and then there's a Christmas tree farm. And as you go closer towards the White Horse Pike, some of the commercial starts to fill in a little bit, and then the high school is about 1.5 miles north of the site towards the pike.
Okay, thank you. And what is your understanding of the proposed use being set forth by the applicant?
Yes, it is my understanding that the applicant intends to abandon the use of the property as a residential dwelling unit, propose a daycare situation with up to 25 clients, students, children, and then has 4 employees.
And where is this property zoned?
The property is zoned for the R3 residential zoning district.
And what are the permitted uses in that district?
Residential uses, parks, playgrounds, conservation areas, public buildings limited to libraries, museums, and schools, both public or private, not-for-profit, elementary or secondary schools, farms limited to raising of flowers, fruits, or vegetable crops, churches or other places of worship, office buildings, garden centers, engaged in the retail sale of plant material, and professional offices limited to doctors, architects, engineers, planners, lawyers, etc.
And a commercial licensed daycare center is not one of the permitted uses in this zone?
No.
And is it one of the conditionally permitted uses in this zone?
No.
Can you please explain to the board your understanding of what variances would be required in order for the board to grant this application tonight?
Yes.
Please.
Okay. First, they need the use variance. This is a use not permitted. They're also going to change the nature of the structure now from being a home to more of a commercial daycare operation. So it's what I call the D1A and B. D1 has 2 parts. It's a use not permitted or a type of structure not permitted. I believe that they need both use variances for that. Second thing is they have the front yard setback. I believe Mr. Weiser's identified this as a technical variance because it's an existing non-conforming condition that comes with the home that predates most of your current zoning, so it would be recognized as the board more than likely because there's been no site plan application with the dwelling before. I also question the potential for a side yard setback variance. They have the parking less than 20 feet from the neighboring property. So I question that. I'm not seeing anything about it. It's 15.4 feet from the property, and it encroaches into the 20-foot setback. There's also going to be a waiver required from the minimum required landscaping in an off-street parking area. Your ordinance has required that one area the size of one of the off-street parking spaces be landscaped. They don't have that. They've got 8 parking spaces. There's no landscaping within the proposed parking lot. And I also question if they need a waiver from the minimum required buffer area. Now, what's very interesting is your ordinance looks at buffers for uses that are permitted. This use is not permitted. It's really tough to say what the buffer is, and it's right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And again, they're impinging into the side yard setback with the parking, so I've really got a concern about that.
Thank you. Can you please summarize any challenges that you've identified with the proposed development?
Yes, and I think a lot of them have been graciously brought to everyone's attention through Mr. Weiser. Basically, the site is located on a county road. It's Chew Road, County Road 559, and the corridor can and does experience more volumes of traffic than a local road. The site is almost located at the bend of the road, right in this area. So you're coming around, it's a little farther past the site, right here, as the road bends and curves. It's a gentle bend, but there still is a curve in the road there. You also have the issue that the site is located right out front of the site is where that speed limit sign dropping to 40 miles per hour is occurring. You're going to have a hard stop. Now, I take my foot off the gas because I don't like to waste gas when I'm going from 50 to 40. I almost get rear-ended every time I do that because somebody's racing to get to the 40 mile per hour zone to jam on their brakes. You have this condition with what we've heard testimony about, up to potentially 25 drop-offs and pickups, school buses stopping and honking out front. There's no shoulder to the road. This is a really, really trying situation.
And that's without the 4 additional employees?
That's correct.
All right, please proceed.
Then, excuse me, I also have concerns, and I think Mr. Weiser also mentioned this. Even though I'm not a traffic engineer, I do have some concerns with the way the site is designed, where you have the circulation coming behind the site. That's a 16-foot wide, it goes down to 1 foot, where the vehicles, and let's face it, I drove an SUV for a while. I'm a mom of 2 kids. My oldest just graduated. My youngest is now in high school. We drive SUVs and minivans for a reason. They're going to be coming through here. The kids are playing over here. They have to access that somehow. So I do have a concern. I think that it was well mentioned that there's a concern that this is a double driveway coming in, double width driveway, double way, and one coming out here. I also noticed that there are 2 driveways, one here and one is right over here, right next to the site. So I think there's going to be a lot of traffic conflicts, especially where you're coming into that 40 mile per hour zone. Then the next thing that I would like to mention is what we refer to as an attractive nuisance. There was a question that was asked of the applicant, are there swimming pools in the area? The answer was yes. I have an aerial photograph that confirms it if we would like to turn that in.
Mr. Chair, may I approach?
Please do.
Excuse me.
What I'm passing out here is an aerial photograph of the subject area. It does show a number of swimming pools in the immediate vicinity within 200 feet of the subject property. I guess I'd have to ask to have this marked as B1 for identification purposes.
Ms. Woolley-Dillon, what does this aerial photograph depict that you think is relevant to this application?
This depicts the location of the dwelling, the surrounding neighborhood, what's happening around it, and then as you can see, there are lighter blue areas that show the swimming pools that are located along the same side of the road and in this immediate area.
And you mentioned the term attractive nuisance. Can you explain what that means to the board?
Yes, basically it means that kids view it, they see it, they want to go in it. And I know my son was a very fast child. That kid can't get away from me in no less than 30 seconds, and I was a whole lot thinner than I am now. All it takes is one moment. It's inviting a disaster.
So in addition to the traffic concerns, you also have concerns about the swimming pool so close to the proposed licensed daycare?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other challenges you've identified?
Yes, talking about the proposed number of vehicle trips, with the residential dwelling, even what they have now with the home occupation, normally it's 10.09 vehicle trips that you have associated with this. If there are 5 kids and another person or 2 coming, that's potentially another 10 vehicle trips, plus maybe 1 more for an additional staff member. We're going to triple that, and we've now got buses stopping out front. That's an awful lot of traffic for a property that is zoned residential, right in the middle of the R3 residential zoning district, and was never envisioned or anticipated for this proposed use. And then finally, I'd like to add, and I think it's been mentioned before, that front yard setback, it's awfully close to the road. I know we're talking about site suitability and the building being suited for this proposed use. That's really close to a county road. My house is 120 feet back from Route 9. Sometimes I don't feel like it's safe enough for me, but I know the closer you get to the road, especially with smaller children, they can break away and go. And I understand it does happen. It's not very, it's just one of those things you want to avoid. And I think putting this use in this building does not do that.
On cross-examination of the applicant's planner, I alluded to 7 districts zoned in the Township of Hammonton where a commercial daycare facility, a licensed daycare facility, would be a permitted use, conditionally or ancillary. Based on your review of the ordinances, is that correct?
No, or I'm sorry, the 7, yes. His answer of 2 was incorrect.
Okay. Mr. Chair, may I? I have a map showing the zoning districts where daycare centers are conditionally permitted in the Township of Hammonton. And I'm shooting that, and I've asked to have that marked as D2 for identification purposes. And the purpose of this is just so that the board can have a visual representation of all the places in the township where proposed use would be conditionally permitted. Ms. Woolley-Dillon, can you please explain to the board what you observed that's significant in this map?
Yes. I was trying to keep my testimony brief, short. I could have printed out a map of each of the specific zoning districts, but I wanted to give you the whole picture of where this is allowed. This is actually taken from the zoning ordinance, and it indicates where all of the gateway downtown areas are. And there are 6 very specific gateway districts. They're all unique. They have different things that are allowed. It's by building type, shape, etc. And it's the Gateway District Avenue area, Gateway District Boulevard, Downtown District near town, Downtown District in-town railway, Downtown District in town, Downtown District downtown, and then I also found that this type of use is permitted as an ancillary use in the highway business district along the pike. So I found that, and in looking this, I wasn't present when you guys did your master plan amendment, but it's pretty easy for me as a planner to understand why this was done this way.
So it's not by accident?
No,
Can you-
it's
Go ahead.
very purposeful design. And what the town has seen fit to do, I've been down there. It's one of the best little main streets. I actually have taken pictures of this and used this as an example for infill development and what's appropriate to do to get that small town feel. What you as a municipality determined is you want your businesses to succeed, to thrive. This is where you want your foot traffic, and you really want these kind of uses. So this is where you've chosen for this type of use to go. That's where the municipality has seen fit for this use to be appropriately located. The other thing it does as part of supporting your local businesses, there's a toy store in town. It's one of my daughter's favorites. Even though she's in high school, she loves it. And you also have the coffee shops, the restaurants. This provides interaction, users on the street, pedestrians. It gives that true feel, and you're really supporting your local businesses. That's why you want a daycare center right in the middle of town.
And I don't want to knock you off of your game here, but I'm going to go off outline for a minute. Have you done any research about how many licensed daycare centers there are in the Township of Hammonton?
Yes, I have.
And would that be relevant to whether, in fact, there's a need for this sort of proposal?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what did you find? Sure. Mr. Chair, may I? What I have here is a list of licensed daycare centers, daycare facilities in the Township of Hammonton. I'm sorry, Hammonton, forgive me.
Mark is D3.
Please. Ms. Willie-Dillon, would you please summarize your findings from your research about active daycare centers in the township?
Yes, the exhibit that was turned in has 2 sheets to it. The first is a chart that I compiled that shows the licensed daycare facilities within Hammonton and the surrounding region. And there is one space that does not have a number next to it. It is the current facility at the site that we're looking at. So I did not even include that. The other thing that's not even included on here is there's actually a preschool situation that you have right at the high school, a mile and a half away, less than a mile and a half away from the site. So in looking at this, we have 11 licensed daycare facilities within Hammonton, within the immediate area. This does not also even include those small businesses that have under 5 students that they care for, children that they care for, that do not need to be licensed by the state. And some of them do have the same address. It's a different type of program. And you can see to the far right, I've listed the age of children that are accepted at these programs. Some are school age, some are preschool, some were not specified, and then you have anything from school age, preschool, toddlers, and infants. So there are 11 facilities. It's also consistent with another list that I went to from the Child Care Explorer at the njccis.com portal, where it's looking for Child Care Explorer through the New Jersey Department of Children and Families. And this lists many of the same that are on the front sheet.
So just to summarize, the highlighted area on the map is not the only place where there's daycare options available in the township, because you have these in-home daycare facilities in all the gray residential areas where you can have up to 5 children.
That's correct.
Okay, there was a mention in the applicant's application saying that daycare is per se inherently beneficial, and therefore the positive criteria are satisfied as a matter of law.
Yes.
Is that a rebuttable presumption?
Yes.
And is it relevant how many of a particular use are already available in the township as to the weight of that inherently beneficial designation, or whether it even exists?
Yes, and what it is when you're looking at an inherently beneficial need, it's defined as something that there are so few of them in the area, and they satisfy not only a local but a regional need, and this is why it supposedly, in theory, satisfies the purposes of zoning. However, the courts have held that the more of these uses that you get in an area, in a municipality, that's where it begins to lose its inherently beneficial status. Now, I can tell you, if you go to Merchantville or Pleasantville, a church, a religious use, is an inherently beneficial use everywhere but those 2 communities. Do you know why?
No.
In Merchantville, they only have 6 churches. It's a tiny community. That's enough for them. Pleasantville, one of the last applications I did, and I'm sure they have about the same number, 37 different churches. You cannot argue an inherently beneficial use when you have so many of them.
And that wouldn't just apply to religious institutions, but
No.
medical providers,
It
doctor's
applies
offices.
across the board. I've also had a case in Toms River that I had an objection to, where they were proposing an acute trauma care facility. And by looking at where this was provided, not only in Ocean County, in the municipality, and in the region, the board found that that application did not meet the inherently beneficial status because they had so many of them, and there were extra beds, extra openings, and there was not a need.
Speaking of extra openings, to the best of your knowledge, are these daycare facilities all at capacity with a waiting list?
No. There are openings.
There are openings at all of these facilities?
To the best of my understanding, yes.
In various age groups?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, one last example of this inherently beneficial use where a community has not accepted this type of thing. When you have a transitional facility, when you're coming out from incarceration, normally it's considered an inherently beneficial use because it serves a need. It transitions you to coming back into population. You cannot argue that in Camden because they have so many of them. You have to argue a strict use variance application, and I've had to do it. So there are communities throughout southern and central New Jersey where this happens. And most recently in Atlantic City, there was a Class F boarding license for a sober living facility. that the board found did not meet the inherently beneficial use standard because of not only what was happening in that portion of Atlantic City, but they had 35 of them right next door in Ventnor. So it's what we call site context sensitive, and it's for each community to decide what is inherently beneficial. That is why there is a rebuttable, it's presumably rebuttable, because it's site context sensitive, and local municipalities still have the right to make these local zoning decisions and authority.
And just for the record, from time to time, the state of New Jersey intercedes and takes the decision out of the hands of the municipalities on certain issues, correct?
Yes.
And there are two such statutes in New Jersey, one being NJSA 40:55D-66.6, which provides that licensed child care centers shall be a permitted use in all non-residential districts of municipalities. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's also NJSA 40:55D-665B, which states that family daycare homes up to 5 children shall be permitted uses in all residential districts of municipality.
That's correct.
In your expert opinion, does this application satisfy the positive and the negative criteria to warrant granting this application by the board?
I don't believe so.
And why not?
Okay, the applicant gave 3 of the purposes of zoning. They gave small letter A as an apple, G as in goat, I as in igloo. I think that the application contradicts 7 of those purposes with an 8th one total that the courts have also said is a valid purpose of zoning. I'm going to list them by letter and then basically talk about them really quickly and go through it. Small letter A as in apple, B as in boy, C as in cat, G as in goat, H as in Harry, I as in igloo, J as in Jacob, and then there's one more purpose of zoning that the courts have found that municipalities can use in making land use decisions, and that's the preservation of neighborhood character and conservation of neighborhood values. So A is encouraging, I think Mr. Weiser's talked about this, appropriate municipal action to guide appropriate use or development of all the lands in the states in a manner which promotes the health, safety, morals, and general welfare. B is to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, and other natural and man-made disasters. C is to provide adequate light, air, open space. G is to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses. And then H is to encourage the location and design of transportation routes which promote the free flow of traffic while discouraging location of such facilities and routes which result in congestion or blight. I is promoting a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. J is to promote the conservation of sites and to prevent urban sprawl and degradation of the environment through improper use of land. And then finally, the other one that I've stated is the preservation of neighborhood character and conservation of neighborhood values. I think that it runs counter to those purposes of zoning for what I talked about first and what I opened up with, those safety concerns, the challenges that I'm having with this application. So I believe that all of what I've stated before supports my professional opinion that it's running counter to those purposes of zoning.
Thank you. And as to the negative criteria?
Did you want to talk about impairment of the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance?
If it helps your explanation, yeah.
Absolutely.
Proceed.
We basically talked about this. You as the municipality have 7 zones where this is conditionally permitted. And when I say conditionally permitted, I'll explain a little bit more. It's based on the type of structure, which I find fascinating and really neat. If you have a little residential home, that's where you want it, right in the town setting. So you have 7 zones, 6 of which it's conditionally permitted. The highway business district, it's an ancillary use. And as we've talked about, the state law says that this is permitted in any non-residential zoning district. So I think that they're taking things a step back. I also looked at some of the purposes from the most recent master plan reexamination reports, and I found that there are some challenges where they were listing goals and objectives. The first is to preserve and maintain the essential character of the Pinelands. Second is to discourage piecemeal scattered development. The next one is to encourage revitalization and redevelopment of the central business district. and then to protect the existing character and quality of life in neighborhoods. There are others that I could go through. Those were the ones that I felt were the most appropriate. And this is what your master plan and master plan reexamination reports believe are purposes of zoning. These are ones that I believe the application does not support and contradicts. So I do not believe that we can reconcile the omission of this use, and I believe that there would be a substantial impairment to the zone plan and zoning ordinance by granting the requested use variance.
Just to restate it, you're saying that you believe the proposed development in this application would be contrary to the intent of the zoning plan and ordinances of Hammonton Township?
That's correct.
Anything else you want to tell the board?
I think we've talked about the site being particularly suited to the proposed use. I do not believe it is. Your planner was very apt in his listing his concerns. I also echo those concerns. It's the house, the existing location of the structure. There are a lot of unknowns with this. This is where I'm running into a challenge with it. So I also don't think that the site is appropriately suited. And I think the reason that they gave is it was centralized to this woman's client base. Well, that's nice, but that is not what site suitability means. It is not to benefit the applicant, it's to benefit the community. One of the things that I'll add, and I just kind of touched on it, there is always must be a public benefit in granting any of the requested variances, use variance, bulk variances, anything. I do not believe that the applicant has met those with this application.
If I may just jump in, there was a proposal by the applicant, I believe, to withdraw the site plan approval portion of the application and to proceed with the use variance portion of the application here today. In your professional opinion, is that permissible, and can you separate site plan from use variance on an application like this?
Okay, the first question was, is it permissible? Yes. However, the challenge that we have with this is the courts have indicated that when you have the issues of site plan that are so and they call it, it's not my word, inextricably intertwined with the aspects of the use variance application, those two should not be separated. We've heard discussion about there's a basin that should exist but doesn't. Do we have enough cars? What's happening with the soils in the site? The signs, they need county approval. We now need some additional landscaping. We need the walkways paved. There's a lot of issues that you don't have sufficient information. And when you don't, the conservative approach, you should not separate site plan from the use variance application, and the board should render a decision based on the information that's been presented and that you have in front of you and the recommendation of your board professionals.
And is it also relevant that there may need to be changes made to the principal structure to be ADA compliant and to comply with DCF regulations for licensed daycare facilities as opposed to home centers?
Absolutely.
I couldn't understand what you were saying.
Yeah, I asked if it was also relevant, in her professional opinion, that there may need to be additional changes made to the property to become ADA compliant, to comply with DCF regulations of licensed daycare facilities. Okay. And she answered in the affirmative that it would be.
As far as the negative impacts of the development, and I think, I'm not going to beat the dead horse anymore, but we've really hit it with safety and issue concerns. Those are my top priority. As a planner, when I'm representing an application or coming in for a concern with an application being presented, those are always the top two things that I look at. What's the safety? What's the concern here? And for me, that's just paramount in this application. I also think that the level and intensity of activity that we're talking about the site, we're going from a home, a single-family home, with a family with up to 5 additional children that come and go throughout the day, to 25 kids, at least 4 staff members, and a whole lot of pickup, drop-off, the bus honking, waiting for people to come and get them. I also think that the traffic that's going to be generated by the proposed development is well above and beyond what would be expected by those 10.09 vehicle trips for the house, and then a few more for the existing daycare. And then I believe your planner has also touched on it, and that there will be additional noise generated at the site.
Any other remarks for the board?
The only other thing that I'm going to say is that I do not believe that the applicant met their burden of proof for the board to consider this as an inherently beneficial use and to consider granting the requested use variance and any other requests that were made for waivers, et cetera. And I do not think that the board should consider separating the site plan from the use variance application.
And just one more point, even if the board disagreed with you and the board found, no, this is inherently beneficial, the applicant would still have to satisfy the negative criteria. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And if the board finds it's not inherently beneficial or that presumption's been rebutted, then they'd have to establish the positive criteria as well?
That's correct.
I have no further questions.
Any questions for this witness?
Yeah, I do. I actually have a question. When we talked about inherently beneficial, and you talked about the need for a daycare center, and you stated that you knew that none of these places were full, and I was just wondering, one, how you knew that that all these daycare centers were not full, and secondly, do you know how many kids there are that actually need daycare center as opposed to how many facilities are available?
If I may, I can tell you that I personally called all the daycare facilities that I could find on the list to ask if they had openings, if they had a wait list. And with respect to all the ones that I got answers for, I can confirm as an officer of the court that I was told there were slots available. So that's my information that I conveyed to Ms. Woolley Dillon.
And there was a second part of the question?
The
You know what the need is?
Oh, in the area. Okay, population is changing, kids get older. In my area, the population is decreasing for children. However, the population it fluctuates and it changes as time goes on. There may be smaller children, there may be children coming to the area, but as was indicated, there are slots at other facilities that are open.
And these were just in Hammonton, correct? Not to mention all
That's
the other
correct.
ones.
I'm sorry, I'm shaking my head, yes.
Okay, not to mention all the other sites on the way to work for mom and dad who might work in another municipality?
That's correct.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
I'd like to. Thank you. I need to get the record set. So, I'm sorry, just to clarify, you testified that there are openings at the other daycares,
Yes.
but you don't know that personally? You
I
testified
relied-
that you didn't?
I relied on due to the shortness of time, I was retained a very short time ago. I didn't even have time to call the daycares. My associate did call, and he's an officer of the court and giving a truthful statement that there are
But I just wanted to be clear, your
Yes.
testimony was that you knew that there was a need, but he knew there was a need, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. And was your testimony also that the daycare centers are placed in the business districts to bring foot traffic to the business districts?
In the central business district, that seems to be the intent of it, to support the other local uses.
Is it your belief that dropping off and picking up at a daycare center brings foot traffic to a district?
Actually, yes, it does. It can, especially when you have a lot of other commercial uses around it. I know where I live, when I had daycare with my children, there was a little shopping plaza, I think a total of 3 things in it, out in front of the childcare. We didn't have that opportunity. We had to run to Walmart, to wherever, anything that was open, the other stores. We had to go different places. I would have loved to have kept my trip chains with my kids to having small kids in the car and limiting the amount of time that I'm in there with both of them screaming. It would have been delightful, but I couldn't do that based on where I lived. So one of the things that you want to do when you have a mixed use downtown is reduce or eliminate the trip chains and go to the restaurant to pick up dinner, to go have dinner, get your cup of coffee, stop at the toy store.
Is it your testimony that a church has applied to be an inherently beneficial use in Merchantville and turned down?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you know when that was?
I have to think about it.
That's my hometown.
I believe it was in 2013 or 14, perhaps.
So churches are no longer inherently beneficial uses?
They
in
haven't been
Merchantville?
for a long time.
Okay. So,
And it was the Catholic Church application for the expansion of their parking lot, if you need specifics.
Excuse me, could you guys talk to us rather than each other?
Sorry, this lends itself to that.
Sorry.
I know.
I don't want to, I'm trying to keep social distancing and be respectful of personal space.
It was
My
St. Peter
apologies.
Merchantville
It was the
that
Catholic
wanted to
Church.
expand
Their
their parking
parking,
lot.
yes.
So not another church. I find it hard to believe, that's why I'm asking, that a town would turn down a church as an inherently beneficial use. So I just wanted you to
Oh, they
clarify your
did.
testimony.
They did.
They turned down the expansion of a parking lot for an existing church that's
Yes.
been there 100 years. Okay.
And we had tried to argue that it was an inherently beneficial use because it was a religious use, so it satisfied
Right.
certain things. The board did not accept that.
Okay, understood, but not the use, okay. What evidence do you have to rebut the testimony of the applicant that there is a need for daycare in that zone?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question again?
The applicant has testified this evening that there is a need for daycare in the R3 zone, that she has a wait list. What evidence do you have to counteract that testimony?
I don't have any evidence, and I don't believe anybody's seen the waiting list.
Correct. And the purposes of zoning that you've listed this evening, you agree that there are an or in between each of those purposes?
Yes.
You just have to satisfy one.
And address the negative criteria.
Of course.
The negative impact.
But it's not an and situation.
No.
Okay. And, I'm sorry, and you're not a traffic expert, but can you go through a little bit for me again? Briefly, the 10 trips, I didn't understand that because I'm not understanding where that testimony is coming from.
Residential site improvement standards indicate, and we can rely on that as a planner, they indicate that when you have a detached single-family dwelling unit, the average number of vehicle trips, and that means a trip is 1 in, 1 out. And my husband does this, and I hate it, and I am constantly angry with him. He takes at least 6 trip chains on a Saturday. He takes 6 different trips in and out on a Saturday. He'll go to Walmart. Then he needs to go to Wawa. Then he needs to go. And each of those 1 in, 1 out, each of those is a trip. So he's living up to the 10.09 trips on a Saturday for a detached single-family dwelling. I do what they call trip chaining. I run 6 different errands, so instead of 12 different in and outs, I have 2 trips. 1 in, 1 out, and I'm going to 6 different locations. So like I said, that is the residential site improvement standard. It's state law. It's what we accept as those 10.09 vehicle trips for a detached single-family dwelling.
Right, so, but that's not what this will be. This will be a daycare center. So I didn't understand what your testimony was.
My testimony was that with those 10.09 trips that you have now estimated, she has a few more with up to 5 kids and an additional helper or 2 coming. You're going to have at least 25 of those in and out, and the buses for pickup, drop-off, and then you've
Right,
got...
but we can't use the residential standard because it's not going to be residential.
It's based on the number of children that you've proposed, which, as the board member indicated, you can't assume that they're all related and coming in the minivan.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm just not getting the relevance of the residential 10.09 because it won't be residential.
It's the standard it's what's there now. And I am comparing for the board what we have going on right now to what's coming down the road with the application. And that's where it gets significantly worse with what is being proposed with the 25 children, the additional help, the buses coming and going.
Well, the bus comes every day no matter what. There's children there. That's not because of a daycare.
Understood.
So that's irrelevant to that conversation. Obviously, any bulk variances that the board, that were acknowledged in the engineer letters or that are pre-existing, we would ask those to be acknowledged and approved by the board as well. That is it from us. No, I think.
Any further questions from this
That's it,
witness?
right. No,
Further, sir.
Mr. Chair, just one redirect, please. It would still be in the R3 zone. You have all these trips coming and going. They're not rezoning the R3 district. They're just requesting a use variance for this one property.
That's correct.
So having all those additional trips in a residential zone in a rural community not intended for this use would still be relevant to the board's determination.
Of course, I wasn't clear on what the 10.09 relevancy.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Hold on, I was a little confused on this. A trip is 1 trip out, going out is 1, coming back is 2, right? So with 25 kids, that's 50 for the kids, and 4 employees, that's 58. So that's 58 trips,
least.
basically, for that property.
And I know for a fact, I have a special needs daughter. The ratio of instructional staff for special needs students is it's almost at a 2-to-1 ratio. And I can tell you that if they're going to accept special needs children, they're going to exceed 4 helpers.
But that's between the applicant and the state.
Understood, but it also has a bearing to this board for what you're approving with those 8 parking spaces and the number of trips that will be generated at this site.
And just to be clear, you're not a traffic expert.
No, I
Okay,
didn't say
so
I was.
please limit your testimony. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Is there any closing statements, ma'am? No.
Oh,
Okay, checking, yes, go ahead.
sure. I do not, Mr. Gilmore has a very brief statement. Really quick.
Yeah, really quick. I mean, just for the traffic, I mean, you add up the trips and everything. I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but it comes to when you study traffic and how it works, it comes to the peak hour. So you really look at hours when those trips are occurring. This facility is almost metered because you drop a child off, you're waiting in line. So this is basically a metered situation, almost if you were to get on the on-ramp on a major freeway where they have a traffic light that go. So you're not just piling up out here. Chew Road is a county road. It's an arterial road. It's designed for that many trips. So I just want the board to be confused, but it's 50 versus 10. It's really when those trips occur that's important. And again, this is a metered site, so you're not everybody just piling out at one time. So I just want to make that clarification.
Thank you. Anything further, ma'am? No. Okay. Anybody else wish to be heard concerning this application? Nobody else wish to be heard? Public portion is now closed. Mr. Solicitor, where do we stand?
Chairman, there is a protocol for evaluating this type of use variance. It came from the Supreme Court case of Sika versus Board of Adjustment. And the first criteria is you have to determine whether there is a positive, you have to determine whether there's a compelling public interest and a beneficial use. And you first have to identify, is there a drawing a blank. If there's a beneficial use. And first you look to the statute. The statute identifies childcare as a public use, and there is a rebuttable presumption that it is the reason for granting a use variance. The opponent to this has indicated it's rebuttable. That is an accurate statement. They have argued that there is not a need for a daycare center. But remember, it is a rebuttable presumption. You have to go with the presumption, and they have the burden to show that they've overcome that presumption. Criterion number 2 is the board should identify the detrimental effects that will ensue from the granting of this variance. I don't want to go through all the testimony, but there's been plenty of testimony from the opponent as to what the detrimental effect will be. And then third, your obligation is, can you reduce or eliminate some of that detrimental effects by granting or requiring certain conditions to allow the variance to occur. And then finally, you basically have to weigh the positive and negative criteria and decide whether, even with those conditions, that you can eliminate or sufficiently satisfy that negative criteria. And it is the board's weighing of that you have before you. With that said, I will need a motion to approve the use variance that has been applied for on the grounds that it is inherently beneficial under 40:55D-4 with any conditions you so want to impose on that.
Motion? Any questions on the motion? Yes, sir, go
And
ahead.
again, just for clarification, this is for both the use and the site plan.
No, site plan has been withdrawn.
That's officially withdrawn.
Correct.
So what I would recommend, provided that council finds it legally appropriate, is that the use variance be conditioned upon the site plan. So if at some point in the future they come back with a site plan application that gets denied, that the use variance goes away. That seems only fair. Any objection?
No objection.
If you can't get site plan approval, you won't have the use variance.
That's fair.
Members of the board, we have a motion on the floor. I need someone to make a motion.
I have one question for our attorney when he talked about beneficial use, inherently beneficial, and that daycare centers are inherently beneficial.
Actually, by statute. Actually, they're identified as a number, yep.
So is that contingent upon, like, it's already a daycare, basically? So making it a bigger daycare, does that change anything?
No, because they don't need it, they didn't need a use variance in at the old status. Now they need a use variance. Now you have to determine whether that's inherently beneficial. I'm saying by statute, it's defined that it is, but it is a rebuttal presumption that it is. And if the applicant has failed to establish that there was a need, for example, if there was a daycare center on every corner, they could argue that there really isn't a need for one in a zone that's not permitted. And I think the opposition has identified that, saying there's plenty of other zones, and I'm just stating their arguments. There's plenty of other zones for this to occur, that you don't have to make an exception in an R3 zone. So yes, it's inherently beneficial. The question by name, and the question, it's a rebuttable presumption that it is. As to whether they've offered enough evidence to show that that presumption is not accurate, that's for you to decide.
Anything further for the solicitor? Let's have that motion one more time, sir.
I just need a motion to approve the use variance for the application before you, which is Sharika Newsom, with any conditions you may oppose on that, or impose upon that.
Members of the board, a motion on the floor?
That would also include the sidewalk going up to the door too, right?
Yes, or any other ones you have identified. Certainly, it always includes the things that are stated in Mr. Weiser's report and the engineer's report, and I don't believe the applicant has any opposition to the sidewalk.
Right, and we're fine with the sidewalk.
Anything of record that they've agreed to, I tried to jot them all down.
Does the stipulation that Mr. Weiser read, that if it's contingent, it is contingent on site plan approval?
Correct.
That's part of the motion.
Correct.
Members of the board, motion?
What's that?
What's next then?
No, you need, did somebody make the motion? Okay. You need a motion to approve the use variance conditioned on site.
No members willing to make that motion?
I would suggest a vote.
I'll make that motion. You make a motion, Mr. Gordon first. Second?
I'll second.
Who's second? Okay, second.
Make sure the roll calls out.
You got that, Secretary? Okay. Roll call.
Ralph Capaccio,
No.
Michael Hozick,
No.
Michael Messina, Gordon Faribault, Mickey Palia,
No.
Ray Schipione,
No.
and Ed Marinelli.
In the interest of safety, I vote no.
Mr. Bass get the vote?
Right?
Right, you got
Yes. Well, it doesn't matter, yeah, if you needed
Five
five,
anyway.
yes.
There's only 7 on the board.
Right, for zoning, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Completed, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming and your time.
Thank
Sorry
you.
it's so late, but we got it done.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the board, do we have anybody else have anything? Do we still have this to county?
Yeah, we still have,
County still here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen of the board.
two were screaming out there.
No permits.
Oh, yeah. I hate to tell you,
And they just upped the goddamn thing. They just doubled it.
shocking how many there was, shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
All right.
Chairman, may I suggest a 5-minute recess for?
5-minute recess in order. Thank you.
are you?
The regular meeting of July 6, 2022 will now resume. I understand we have a member of the county here to give us a presentation. Who's representing the county? We have a spokesperson? Good evening. Sorry we're so late, sir. Sorry we're so late. You were busy talking anyway.
I know.
I understand the mayor's volunteered that all board members get time and a half, so.
Please, sir, state your name and position for the record.
Sure. Anthony Pagano, attorney with Atlantic County, with the County Law Department for many years. We're here tonight for something, I'd like to say it's unusual, but there's no way I can live up to that prior application. We're here to start a process. It's an informal presentation. Under state law, when the county is going to do a project of a significant nature, there's a requirement to give an informational presentation to the planning board to give notice about what we're thinking about, what we're looking, what we're considering. And this particular application concerns the county's public work yard on Egg Harbor Road next to the Patriot Window manufacturing plant. So, you know, that facility, I think the county has owned it. I did the closing in 97 or so. We bought it from Atlantic Electric before Atlantic Electric had used it as a maintenance yard, and I think Atlantic Electric bought it in the 1950s from, was it Atlantic Cement, something like that. I don't know what it was used for in the 50s, but you know, the county purchased it. I think that was preceded by the county giving up some land to the town in the early 90s. We had an old maintenance yard on 3rd Street, I think. It's been a while since I looked at that file. So this has been cooking for a long time about what do you do with that facility. Atlantic Electric obviously used it for maintenance. We've used it for road maintenance. We're looking at doing some investments to make it work better, at least something that will serve county needs, regional needs more effectively. And that includes, and that's why we're here tonight, proposal to remove underground storage tanks and install a new fueling system that would be capable of handling public works vehicles, sheriff, law enforcement, along the front of the building. So with me tonight, I have Christopher Palermo. Mr. Palermo is with the County Facilities Department. He's an experienced project manager. Also, we have the 2 engineers and project managers from JMT. JMT is a private firm. These gentlemen have done these types of facilities before, and you know, they were retained through a competitive process to look at this, go through the design, see how the site works, get the Pinelands permits, and that's kind of where we're at right now. The documents for stormwater management, evaluating site operations have been submitted to the Pinelands Commission to come up with a drainage system. And this is sort of what the facility looks like. I'm going to turn it over to JMT to give some description about what's proposed.
Sir, identify yourself for the record, please.
My name is David Chandley from Johnson, Meerman, and Thompson.
Okay, Secretary. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you. So I want to summarize what Mr. Pagano said from the standpoint of the basis of the project, the overall project, and how this represents one piece of an overall site redevelopment effort. This current public works location at the rear of the facility houses several aspects of their roadway operations. Salt storage, brine making, material storage for roadway maintenance and operations, vehicle storage and maintenance, and currently a single below-grade vehicle fueling station. This is the first phase of an effort to increase overall operational capacity of the rear of that yard and the overall property. A component of that is replacement of an existing fueling station that has tanks below grade and are currently an environmental concern. There have been directives to replace any below-grade tank-based systems. And in the process of doing so, increase the vehicle fueling capacity of the overall yard by providing 2 stations in total. This represents the first of those stations. The reason for providing for 2 stations is not just to provide additional overall capacity, but to try to decouple the availability of vehicle fueling to vehicles specific to site operations and vehicles for the benefit of greater county use outside of the rear of the facility. Because the operations of the facility and the site are so critical, the project needs to be phased in a way to where we're able to build the new before we have to remove the old, so there's no discontinuation of availability of vehicle fueling. And that's what's leading to the layout we show here and the rendering we have here for a new standalone above-grade based vehicle fueling station located in the front of the yard. The selection of this area was based off of coordination with the county to in part provide for that phasing, which keeps it completely decoupled from the existing station's location, and then allow for fueling of vehicles without impacting circulation to the rear of the yard. At the completion of this phase of the project, this will be removed and an additional above-grade base station will be installed as part of a larger redevelopment effort for the back of the yard, which will also include dealing with salt storage, brine, material storage, and the other aspects of the yard that I mentioned. But one of the fundamental tenets in providing for the additional capacity is providing it through 2 stations, one in the front, one in the back, for increased capacity and to allow for decoupling the circulation for fueling in the front versus fueling in the back. So generally speaking, that's the main purpose of providing for the project and the basis for why we want to come up with that phasing and the proposed locations for those stations. Please.
Phasing in have anything to do with EVs in the future?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Have you taken into consideration of EVs in the future?
Electric vehicles? There may be, I don't know if Chris, you can speak to that from the standpoint of fleet management. There may be a desire for the county to utilize electric vehicles, but the programming for these stations right now was mainly to address the current diesel and gas powered vehicles within the fleet.
And I could also address that we do have EV charging at our main facility up in Northfield. Those were installed 2 years ago, Chris? About 2 years ago. So we're doing a gradual switch, but that would be more for county cars, county employee cars. This facility is more aimed at county public works, the type of vehicles that are going to serve road and highway purposes. The second users that we anticipate will be the most significant will be police, sheriffs, prosecutors' offices. There are some municipal police. No one can just pull up and use this. You have to be an authorized user with a key code to have access to a pump. So it's not for sale to the general public. You have to have an agreement with the county or be law enforcement, an agent of the county. So ultimately, do I see EV charging at this site? Likely, but it's not part of this project.
County vehicles only, Atlantic County vehicles only, correct?
There may be local police in the Northfield facility at our public works yard. The Northfield police approached us, so we share that facility with Northfield police. If Hammonton were to approach us, for example, at this facility, you heard some discussion about the greater question about what to do with the back of the site, and we know that's a serious concern of the mayor and the council about where should these tanks be located. Part of what we're doing in the back of the site is already shared with Hammonton. We do brine and salt in the back for road maintenance, and Hammonton actually is one of our users. Hammonton Public Works vehicles come into the site, load up in the back, and exit along with county vehicles. So the idea, and that's what we're looking at now, how to best maximize circulation on the site in a safe way. You keep the heavy trucks in the back, brine, salt, road maintenance, the core county and public works functions away from the fueling that's going on in the front. And that's how the front was established.
Also, a component of that planned redevelopment of the back of the yard is to increase covered salt storage capacity, brine production, and brine storage. So additional space on the site's already going to be required for additional roadway maintenance operations beyond just the vehicle fueling.
Sure, something like this is gonna have a fence around it, correct? For safety, a fence?
Or which
Fueling station.
the fenced around, it won't be enclosed. There's protective bollards
Harbor
around.
Road's right in front of that, right?
Sorry?
Egg Harbor Road?
Yes, that's correct. Egg Harbor Road's here, fueling station is located back with a separate means of access from the existing driveways in and out of the site already.
How far off of Egg Harbor Road is the fueling station?
How many feet?
80.
80.
No, this is the new one. This is, where this distance is 40 feet according to this bar scale. So, well, okay, 60. It's basically going to be on Egg Harbor Road is where it's basically going to be. You know, I mean, my first reaction to this was one of the things I like about the existing facility is you don't notice it's there. And you know, what I realized is going to happen is that all the lawn and the vegetation that is now in front of that building is going away. And what is going to be in front of that building is that. And that's what you're going to see from Egg Harbor Road. Well, sorry, that's looking northeast, so that's not...
This view would be equivalent to this approach vector. So it's this corner right here is what you see on this front.
Okay, so that's what you're going to see from Egg Harbor Road.
There is a vegetative basin, and I'd like to, I guess if you could fill in some more about how the basin works along the front between the road and the facility.
The basin and then the landscaping around that.
Sure. I'm Nick Farber, by the way, Johnson, Murmuran, and Thompson. Yes, we've gone through the Pinelands. We're going through the Pinelands process now. As part of that, we are required to do full recharge on the site, and we've already gotten stormwater management borings. We've gotten 3 of those so far, and we've designed. Right now, we have 2 bioretention facilities in the front that will be fully landscaped. To meet, we have approximately 4,000 cubic feet of recharge. For those who want to know that information, you probably know that the best.
Mark's getting excited.
Yes. But we have to fully meet that to get approval from the Pinelands. So we've done that. As also because this is a fueling facility, it's called a high pollutant loading area, and we required to put pre-treatment devices. We have 3 of them. They're called stormscapes. Basically, they're curb cuts in the roadway to collect total suspended solids before it actually goes into the bioretention and infiltrates into the ground. So I said it'll be fully landscaped. The landscape plans are in the documents, I believe, that a lot of you have there in front of you. So that's really the high level on the stormwater right now. So we have done our homework with it. We submitted to the Pinelands, and right now it's in review.
There's a stormscape.
Yeah, it's a proprietary, like a Filterra.
Yeah, they're effective on metals and
yeah, they
obviously you're gonna have
remove
fuel
80% total suspended solids.
Yeah, but I meant more like the heavy metals, like from their, obviously fuel spills or, from vehicle, just regular vehicle. It's not like, silt coming off a bit, that kind of thing. I'm talking more.
Yeah, no, they're designed to be able to handle any sort of.
Any other source control in there for like spills or?
What we did when we sited the location of the facility is we have it at a high point, and we have a canopy over it, so that no storm water is going to be running into the mixing with the any spills. So it would be contained on the pad itself.
So the pad would contain. How many gallons do you typically store?
There'll be 2 5,000-gallon tanks. One's going to be unleaded, the other one diesel, above ground. One of the things with the tanks too to mention is
company called Convault, so we're going to have a exposed aggregate type finish to it.
You have part of the photo
I
for
do
the,
have
for the finish.
Yeah, I don't know if they had it in their documents. I mean, this is just the. I don't know.
Nah, there's the one you showed me.
There's another one I got too.
Yeah, sure. It's past that one. Yeah, I don't know if we have quite enough for everybody, but.
I'm familiar with him. Yeah, he, yeah.
So another installation of the same type of tank.
No, I'm familiar with him, yeah. Yeah.
Take a look.
Yeah. I put in more than a few of these. Couple questions. You're here for informational only. You don't have to seek an approval.
Although we don't have to seek an approval, we do want comments. We're looking for input and suggestions, and we'll
So
take
does it have to be in the front yard? I guess I'll put it as bluntly as possible at 10:30 at night after what we just went through, and exactly how many kids are there going to be there is what we need to know.
Good question, and we're going to take it back to the county administration and
I mean, no disrespect.
expression from the mayor.
Well, no disrespect to the county on it, but, you know, we've had lengthy discussions when I was in a different hat on council about gas stations in this town, and nobody likes them. We all need them, but I don't need them. I have an electric car, but, you know, most people need them. So, you know, it's just, you know, no offense, and I worked for a company years ago. We've put in many of those. The concrete structures are not, you know, they're not the best looking things, you know, to be in the front yard on Egg Harbor Road. We have our recreational facility right down the road. We bring a lot of people, you know, this is my 2 cents. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but, you know, or I have not, for the record, I have not spoke to the mayor about this at all. So, but based on his laughter, I could tell that we're on the same page. So, you know, just a suggestion, you know.
Understood. You know, it's an interesting area. You know, on the one side of Egg Harbor Road, we've got a series of heavy industrial commercial uses, and across the street, we have a beautiful open space resource. So that we've inherited a layout in that area that was set up decades ago. Going through that history, I think the Atlantic Electric building was probably there since at least 1955, and it's probably got a couple additions over the decades. When the county bought it, and again, it's been years since I guess we had that small facility that we gave up. We've outgrown it, and you know, now we're trying to figure out how to take this facility and make sure that it's available for disaster, that it's efficient, that it is there to do what it must do to keep roads clean and open and in good repair. It needs help. You know, one of the things, you know, Mr. Palermo, working with facilities, we just finished, well, actually he finished, fixing up the library. And so that was looking at various county facilities in Hammonton. Started with the library, and I think that project is done now, just about this. Yeah. So think new roof, new HVAC system, new generator, stabilizing that facility. So this is next on the list, and this is a critical facility. So it's an attempt to make investments in county facilities that need it to make sure that we can respond to the needs of the community. So that's why we're here. It's what we're trying to do, and we've got a lot of work to do. And I anticipate that we will be meeting with the town's council and town's professionals to talk about the fuller picture of what's happening on this site.
Very well. Anything else, gentlemen?
Well, I mean, you accurately described there are those large commercial facilities along that road, but none of them have a gas station out in front.
Above ground gas station.
Above ground gas station, no.
Oh, it's different. I absolutely agree.
You know, if there were some way to push it back or screen it or hide it.
Well, that's what we're here to take that back. You know, we've invested a lot so far just in doing the preliminary design, addressing Pinelands requirements. It's a tough site. You know, you've got the lake right across the street, the lake wetlands right next to us. So clearly we don't want to be near that. We want to try to pull fueling away from that as much as we can. And there are other things that need to be done on the site to clean it up. So, yeah, those are the kind of things we need to take back and will take back to administration.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Chris Palermo.
Identify yourself for the record,
Yeah,
please.
my name's Chris Palermo. I am the project coordinator of construction for Atlantic County Facilities Management. So, to summarize everything here, one of the things that this project started is because we have to remove the underground tanks. We have to get rid of them. That's priority number one. But therefore, we need to then have fuel ready for our facility. That's why we're putting it here in the front, because we're working on phase 2 of this overall plan, which we're only in the process of working on it. We have not completed it. We have not got any design. We've got a lot of input from Public Works, and that'll include expanding our salt, expanding our brine, expanding our material storage bins. So when you say put it in the back, then you're going to take this space and we're going to add it to the back. Then it's going to limit us on what we need to do for Public Works. So that's why this was phase 1. Get rid of the underground tanks, establish this in the front, then they can continue their operations, while then we then start phasing in the rest of the, which will probably start over here and then work our way over to the other side. It's a process. It would probably be another year.
But plus the second fueling station will go in the back.
Yeah, and then this whole facility in this second, it will probably extend into a third phase, okay? And that third phase will be concentrating on the building itself. We've been discussions of improving security, talk about installing a generator that will then operate this entire facility just in case there is a shutdown or whatever, which then would be able to run our front fueling station. Okay, because God forbid if we lose power, then we can't operate any pumps. So, and that's really another concern that we have now. So it's really this phase 1, 2 would be expanding the material end of it, and then phase 3 is going to end up going back to the building. So this is a process. This just happens to be the first step.
So phase 1 is a year, you said, or phase 2?
No, right now, we're
One
in
would be a
the
year?
process, yeah, and we're at
Roughly?
this phase 1 right now. We're not out for bid, we're not in that mode yet. We hope to go out, okay, but it's a process. By the time this gets put out in the public for bid, it gets put in front of contracts are signed. We're well into the spring, so.
Yeah, for all 3 phases, you're probably looking at nominal 3 to 5 years.
But we are started on phase 2. We've started kind of just getting some preliminary work done.
How old are the existing tanks?
I think we just, the existing ones, I think it was 1993. Yeah. Yeah, I think Adams, Raymond, Hagan did the force. Their DEP has really been kind of on our rear end to get them up to stuff.
So 93, that was after the Vapor Recovery Act, so do they have leak detection on them or no?
Yes.
Do you have any leaks? How big are the tanks in the ground?
4,000 each.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we actually have a company.
they're fiberglass?
That I can't tell you.
They're probably double wall steel?
That I don't remember.
93, yeah, they should be, but yeah, you can go back underground. There's not a law that says you can't go underground. They don't want to go underground.
I'm sorry, Councilman Sam Rodeo, Town of Hammonton, if you want to put my name down there. They could come out, they could go
We
back.
knew who you were.
You know that.
Okay, but
We knew your
They
name.
don't want them back underground. So, I mean, that's all I can tell you.
Anything further, sir?
No, thank you very much. Thank you for your
Unless there's nothing else needed for the board, for them?
So let me just, before you, so my understanding is you don't want them underground so we can't see them, and we don't want them above ground so we have to look at them. Is that pretty much where we're at?
No, I don't mind them above ground, I just don't want.
No, I said so
above
we can
ground
look
right
at
on the
them.
road.
But I'm just saying, we don't want them where we have to actually see them. And they don't want them underground, so they don't.
We will take the comments back.
Okay.
Discuss. And we will have a discussion.
Yeah, Chairman, you have additional comments.
Mayor, would you like to say a few words?
First of all, I want to say that I didn't talk to anybody on this board prior to today. I didn't know the county was going to be here prior to about 5 o'clock tonight when we had our meeting, and I was told, you better stay because the county's going to be here tonight. Respectfully, I sent an email out to the county, and I sent that email out about a week and a half ago. And it was about 6, 7 people, and I never got a response. And the question was, we're going to town, and its residents are going to invest $3 to $5 million in our park across the street. We have the Smith track across the street, a reserve. Now we're going to look across the street, and I need to say this. There's no gas stations allowed in the town of Hammonton. Wawa had to sue to install those gas pumps, okay? They had to sue us. We turned it down in zoning. Remember this, Mick? They sued us, then we had to settle, okay? We said this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't want any other gas stations in the town of Hammonton. Now we're going to get, with all due respect, we have 2 engineers who are very intelligent here, very intelligent, I'm going to say it right now. They're coming here with an above-ground system. It's 80 feet from the property line. It's 81.5 feet from the property line to the front of the building. Okay? Now we got to have 2-way traffic with a pump in the middle. And we got to have a basin. So you will have no green space in front of this building. Gone. Zip. It's going to be a concrete parking lot with a basin with a few shrubs. And those ugly tanks, which I say they should be above ground, in the back of the building. Now I know these engineers are very intelligent men, much smarter than me because I didn't go to college. I'm not that smart, gentlemen. But these guys are geniuses compared to me. And I know if they spend some time and some money in the county, all talks about it, they can make Hammonton and its residents happy. And they can move that system and rephase all the phases behind the building. And I know the county really wants to do it because they wouldn't want to have all of Hammonton's residents up in arms and all the environmentalists in Hammonton up in arms because they ripped out Paradise and paved the parking lot. So I know the county with these very intelligent men is going to go back tonight and they're going to start over from scratch and revisit this whole operation and come up with a way to solve all their problems. Because there's a big piece of property in the back, and this is, gentlemen, this design is Easy Street. This is the easiest way for us to do it. Put the pumps here to phase 2 and 3 in the back. It's not the best, it's the easiest, so it's Easy Street. So I know that Denny is a tremendous politician, and Jimmy Bertino, all intelligent men, and they're going to give everybody the directions they need to solve this problem, because this is not acceptable, and the town cannot have this. This would be a slap in the face. I felt I was slapped in the face already because I didn't get a response to my email, but this would be like slapping 50. Don't worry about Steve DiDonato. He's not smart, he's not intelligent, he's nothing. But this would be like slapping 15,000 people by putting this thing in our front yard. And they all pay a lot of money in county taxes. Hammonton per capita pays one of the highest in Atlantic County. And I know Danny and Jimmy Bertino don't want to do this and jam this down the town of Hammonton's throat. Because that's what you would do if you put the pumps and the tanks in front of this thing with those yellow ballards and that roof. Oh my God, it's ugly view. There's nothing pretty about it. There's platforms on top so you can see how much gas is in it. Look at that picture, gang. Look at that picture. That's one of the ugliest things. Then we had earlier, we had a lady sitting here for what? How long was she here? A very intelligent woman who told us about zoning and what you would want for a variance. And she said you have to have a reason, it has to make sense, and it has to look right. It has to look right and mesh. Isn't that what she said? That looks right and meshes? Now, I can go on for 3 hours like they do in Washington. I could sit here and get the TV's behind me. I could have a ball all night and rev this town up. But I really don't want to have to do that, gentlemen. I didn't want to have to do this. We tried to meet in the vestibule, and you told me to go pound sand.
Well, we did not.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. I looked.
These gentlemen are coming from Delaware and
Mr. Palumbo, with all due respect, I said this is not going to work, and you said, I said, do we want to talk about it in the back? Do we want to revisit this before we go on TV? You said no.
These gentlemen came here to make a presentation.
From Delaware.
From Delaware, Pennsylvania.
That's not
a... to go home. They came here with their
That's not a presentation. These are very intelligent men.
Nah,
they could have come up with a better presentation behind that building.
That is...
You wanted to finish it. No, sir. With all due respect, the county's got to do better than this, and this is not acceptable. And Jim Bertino and Dave Levison should be talking to you and be embarrassed of this presentation tonight.
You asked him if he wanted to wait. He said no. We're going in there. I was sitting there and I
because
heard
we're
that.
here. They've been here. They sat in
So
this
you're here and you're
queue
getting
for
your
3 hours.
So you're hearing it.
And hearing what? I mean, that is...
Do what you
that is
want.
completely...
We started the process.
Do what you
So
please.
thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
I'll ask a quick question.
Yes.
When you did this design, were you asked by the county to consider having above-ground tanks entirely in the rear of the building?
Provisions for locating systems in the rear were considered. The challenge is within the rear, it's not just about one fueling station. There'll be 2 in the back, larger salt, larger brine, larger material storage.
With all the distance, how much distance is in the rear of the building? From the building
Total
to the
distance from
property
the back
line?
to the back line? Off the top of my head, I don't know.
It's about
How do you know if it's going to work then if you don't know the seat? I'll tell you this, it's 147 feet. How do I know what's in your building and you guys don't?
So, again.
What a show you're putting on here.
So
You're
again-
slapping him into the face.
So again, were you asked by the county, because you don't know the distance
It's
to the
called
property line,
Google Earth, gentlemen. Try it.
to consider putting all of the tanks in the rear of the building?
Specifically consider putting everything in the
Yes.
back? No.
No. And that's, quite frankly, and I appreciate your honesty, you admitted that to me out in the courtyard, that you weren't asked to consider that type of design, correct?
Specifically, no.
Okay.
And I think we addressed that because we addressed it because that's where the salt storage, that's where the salt brine is manufactured. If we had to pick something that'd be appropriate for roadside, what's more appropriate? Fueling stations or a brine manufacturing plant? So right now, the brine manufacturing occurs in the back of the building. And again, it's something that not only the county uses, but the town uses. And it would be a slap in the face to the people of Town of Hammonton if we couldn't keep ice and snow off the road. So that's why we have a brine plant. So would you rather see the brine plant on Egg Harbor Road?
No, what's a slap in the
Okay.
face to the residents of Hammonton?
Why don't
Hold
we
on,
find another
Sam,
place
Sam,
we can ask?
Sam, hold on. What's a slap in the face to the residents of Hammonton is that the professionals for the county were not even asked to consider whether their project could fit from the building to the rear of the property when they have 140 feet to work with. That's a slap in the face to the residents of Hammonton, that they now have to live with an above-ground storage tank in the front of their building, and the county didn't even give the consideration to the 15,000 residents of the town of Hammonton to consider putting it entirely within the rear or putting some type of buffer in the front, which was admitted by the professional. The county could have at least had the professionals address that type of design or come back with multiple designs that this board could have considered. That's a slap in the face to the residents of Hammonton. But I appreciate you being honest and admitting that the county didn't ask you to do that. Thank you.
Not to prolong this, but you could always put the tanks in the back and have a pump in the front. I would not be in favor of that, but you could pipe the tanks to the front. Stuart, what's the front yard setback in the industrial zone? Do you know off the top of your head, or Mark? If I'm not mistaken, it's 50 feet, but I could be wrong.
Then by running the fuel line from the back to the front, if we did that, then that fuel line now becomes an underground storage.
Actually, I'm sorry, I
Because
had
of
it
the
right in
volume
front
of
of me.
the
It's
line.
100 feet.
100 feet. So, you know, if you had to apply to the board for the variance, you would need a variance. You're the county, evidently you don't have to. But, and yes, you're correct. It is, so just before you want to lecture me, I worked at, I'm ML Rubin Construction is my family. Aquatex is my family. They're like brothers to me. They're my first cousins. So I happen to know a little bit about this, maybe more than other people here tonight. So I don't need a lecture on fuel systems.
Oh, no lecture.
So,
Lecturing, I'm just saying
And-
that the intent is to get
well,
the fuel system out of the ground, and then if we ran the line underground, then that's what.
have a nice evening.
Speak up a little bit.
Actually, one of the first questions I wanted to give me the information probably about a week or so ago. It was July 1st. I think the first question I had is, was anybody commented, or was anybody contacted from the town to help with the planning process? And at that time, I'm not sure whether there was any contact or not. And the current site plan you have there, does that show the full depth of the property?
On this view, no. We have, so there is a view of the rear of the property, but as that phase's design has been fully developed, it doesn't represent the larger salt barn, the larger brine, larger material storage. Those elements that have been initially programmed haven't been fully laid out yet. So the drawing we have wouldn't show those elements.
So is there any room, I mean, when you're planning for the overall, and it's good to plan ahead, but is there any room to make any kind of arrangements to allow that to be either moved in the back or further back and maybe for the side yard, maybe the parking in the front as opposed to the filling station?
When you say, you mean the parking, sorry, excuse me. The existing one here on the side?
Right, and usually it's not really full. That's the point of that, other passages.
Half-ish.
The various options, if we're, I know you don't have to see full account, but if we want to try and work together.
I'm not on camera. I'm retired. I'm retired.
Help in the process, sure, conceptually, to see what might be able to be done with your future plans and what you're proposing. That's what it looked like for the street.
Well, that's existing conditions.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
These are the existing property line, nominal 15-ton salt barns. This will be replaced with one at 50% larger. Here's the brine making, which will be larger, the material storage. So not just the configuration of where the other aspects of operation are going to be moved, but they're going to be greater, and then there'll be this fueling station in the back is still going to be replaced after this one's proposed to be constructed. So there's going to be one in the back. Fitting them both, along with the increased storage capacity and the other elements, is unlikely to be feasible. So it'll come down to what other programming element concession could be made to allow for both options to be in the back.
Excuse me, 1 minute. I think you just heard him say it maybe 3 or 4 times. Their reason, they want to expand in the back. There's not going to be any more room for them. They're expanding their facility. Am I correct?
Operational capacity?
Yeah,
Yes, that's correct.
absolutely.
That's
So the
correct.
tanks have to go somewhere else because your expansion of your property, it's not going to work back there. If you were going to stay the way you were, it would work. Am I correct or not correct? There you go, gentlemen. He just said it 5 times. They're expanding the salt, the brine, the trucks. They're expanding.
To deliver services that are necessary to maintain county highways, because the alternative
Maybe
is
you
to
need
leave
to find
county
another
highways.
piece of land, sir.
Well, we're here. This is what
You
we
don't
have.
You're right. You can do what you want. I'm just explaining
This is what
to
we
the
have.
town
Right.
what you're planning on doing. Say what you're planning on
We
doing.
did say, we said that we're investing in more, that was part of the beginning introduction, that these facilities are going to be improved in the back, and the back is for salt and brine, and the town uses it.
Expand, not improve.
The town uses it too, so apparently you know, someone in the town knows what happens back there. Yeah.
For now.
Is there any other property behind that that's vacant?
No, you've got the,
There's a rail line.
right, and rail line, wetlands.
That's there, what's the distance between like your rear property line and that rail line? Or if your rear property line is basically your building?
There's nothing to,
There's a fence line right here, just past where the salt barn's in now.
so there's nothing to buy back there, you're saying?
There's an old siding, a railroad siding is back there.
Tony, is there anything to
Some of
buy?
it is.
No, railroad siding, actually. The railroad had
And on this side, is that wetland?
Before I do some of it, there's some of it.
Ready to go, huh?
Could I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
I know this is a wonderful conversation, but this is the presentation to the board. I know you guys are gonna be meeting separately, and that's probably the best way to do it.
But I think it's appropriate for the board to. To close.
Gentlemen, thank you. Hammonton needs some help, and we would appreciate all you could do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next meeting for the 20th this month, we have anything, Secretary?
Yeah.
No, it's okay, we don't go offhand. Well, all right, gentlemen,
We always plan for the next scheduled meeting because it could potentially happen, but
And then August is the one with the apartment expansion?
Barnes will be
no,
back.
that's the first or second of August, third of
Yeah,
August.
yep,
Third of
because
August.
I'm gonna have some of the school board people.
Yeah, and we need you, we need you. Why we need you?
Did you
The
adjourn?
bus stops out front, the kids walk out to the bus.
No, I know.
Where that?
No, but
Well, and no turnaround. I went down there and looked, and there's no turnaround.
Hey, Chairman, could we end this?
Ed.
Could we adjourn it so we can go off the record?
Oh, sorry. Nothing further. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you,
thank you.
gentlemen, for